Never replicated, huh? We're the original and still the best. Me and my neighbor. Don't worry yourself, I'll come and look for you, all right? Oh boy, I tell you, you're a teacher at the Ula. You know, I tell you something. I have more enemies, eh? But we're pushing forward. We're pushing forward. All right, push forward. Hi, Christina. How you doing? Have a great night, huh? Friday night. Let's have a party. Can we lock this down, Caroline? Let's lock this striking thing down. Let's lock the striking thing down until 9 o'clock. Lacovia, how you doing, Lacova? You're from Lacova, Rick. Rick, you're from Lacova? Well, you know, coffee spin, my brother. From them here we name. Overcomer Lorraine, good night to you. Send them love a long time, and I know because of the fame. You think a little bit of time we touch road. Hey Rick, do you know Lacovia? Do you know anybody in Coffee Spin? I'll give me cell phone number. Coffee Spin, how you doing? What this for me in Jamaica? Say your favorite boy is on. Your favorite boy is on, Alain. I'm your favorite boy. Oh. It brings such happiness to you, not true? I bring so much happiness to you there in New York. Lots of people can't get help back on yourself. Don't wait on government, all right? Good night, cowboy. How you doing? Food you cook, me love the clothes where you have on. Yeah, me love the way you keep me safe in a. Your favorite boy is on. All right, listeners, welcome to Hello Neighbor, prime time, and I'm happy you're here. There is a crucial challenge. Good night, Caroline. How are you doing? Pierre? Waving to the lady behind the glass. Hello. 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 All right. Misinformation is the cancer in the society. Give me a second, please. Yes, sir. All right, so the spread of misinformation is something we want to build on. It is a complex problem, and there are multiple factors at play. The recovery efforts of the government is being thwarted, and I'm going to put deliberately in quotation, because there is a dirty underbelly in Jamaica, and it is political. It is political. And I am beginning to wonder if some of these people online are not being told what to say. Because this can't be just organic. It seems rather orchestrated and planned. The challenge with Jamaica is that literacy levels can contribute to the issue, but it is not the sole issue. Illiteracy or low levels of, by the way, this is for the students. I notice, you see, that a mistake is being made since the storm with the use of the word damages. The storm did not cause any damages. You don't use the word damages to refer to the destruction of the storm. That is not correct. It is damage. Is an uncountable noun. Okay? So, damages is a countable noun, and damages refers to compensation or repatriation for harm or injury. And I hear a lot of people with this damages. I hope that that clarifies that for the Politics Plus listeners. The correct thing to say is that the hurricane caused significant damage rather than the hurricane caused significant damages to Jamaica. Damages is incorrect. Damage is an uncountable noun. It refers to harm or destruction caused by an event. Damage refers to destruction or harm caused by an event. Damages is countable. So if it cannot be counted, it's not damages. Do you follow? I hear even ministers, that's fine, because just correct that for me here. So if it is uncountable, it is damage. If it is countable, it is damages. So damages is normally used in the legal context where you go to court. So the court award damages to reputation, right? To follow. So in this context, damages is not the most accurate choice. Damages typically refers to harm, injury, legal, financial. For example, the court awarded damages to the victims of the hurricane. But in the context of describing the impact of Hurricane Melissa, the more accurate thing to say is damage, because it is uncountable. Damage refers to harm or destruction caused by the hurricane. So then, where you hear that, you know that you heard that on Politics Plus. The difference between damage or notes, illiteracy or high levels of illiteracy. Drunkro? Our drunkro. Makes it challenging for individuals to critically evaluate information, making them more susceptible to misinformation. So one of the things that is emerging out of this hurricane is that we have a challenge with literacy in Jamaica. And there are several factors that contributes to this phenomenon. Firstly, you have what is called information overload. One of the amazing things about the Politics Plus podcast is that on average, people listen 6 minutes. On average, the listeners to this program. So, for example, at the end of this show, when I get the report, we may have 7,000 people listening. But they don't all stay for the 2 hours or the 3 hours, you know. The average watch time on Politics Plus is 6 minutes. Now, it means I have to be able to hold the attention of most of my listeners for 6 minutes. 6 minutes. You know what the average watch time is on the girl we talk about, rice? Rice and sardine? Maybe half hour. What does that tell you about the society? What does that tell you about the society? TikTok can do you harm, you know. The sheer volume of information available can be overwhelming. When I come off at nights, with the greatest of respect, I have to go to my bed. I can't bother to listen to this and that and, you know, all of that. It makes it difficult for people to discern accurate information from misinformation. The society is suffering from information overload. I have not been to Coffee Spin, brother. How are things there? How many lives are on Jamaican in Jamaica now? I could go up here and tell you. How many lives are actually happening now? Dozens. Yeah? See them there? Valro, Doggy. See them there? It's all up there. They don't have the numbers, but they're on. Hoping that people will join so they can continue their rubbish. There is information overload in the society. Dozens of radio stations, hundreds of lives. And then there is what you call the social influence. People often rely on social media networks and influencers for information which can perpetuate misinformation. Traditional media is almost becoming obsolete. I can tell you this. One of your favorite stations, NNN, is on TikTok. They're on YouTube. They're on Facebook. If they stay on the free-to-air spectrum, they are dead. This is where information is now available at your fingertips. You're traveling home in the bus, you're on TikTok, listening to your favorite live. And when that live becomes influential to your listeners, it may be 10 people that you see on these programs, but 10 people multiply by 1, by 2 becomes 20. 20 multiplies by 2 becomes 40. 40 by 2 becomes 80. 80 by 2 becomes 160. You see what is called now the multiplier effect of misinformation. So though there are only 3 persons listening to them, that 3 walks away misinformed and tell 3 more. And the misinformation now is 6. And the 6 that are that becomes 12. And by the time you know it, one dumb person on air, one stupid blogger affects, you know, you ever hear them say one bad apple spoils the bunch? It's true, you know. You know why? You know why? Because the bad apple have bacteria. It's spoiled. And so the one spoiled apple spread the bacteria to the ones them that not spoil and spoil them too. You remember blue soap? How did our young men in Jamaica start washing them face with blue soap and bleach their skin? How? And wear them pants down a bottom. That's for another discussion. Social influencers, social media influencers must be taken seriously. And it is time for this country, with this very high level of illiteracy, to do something about influencers who are spreading misinformation. You cannot. It is irresponsible of you to get up on your life and to spread falsehood. That is public mischief, and I cannot see why that's not a cause for you to be brought before the court. Because as I have pointed out to you, if even one person I watch it, one becomes two, two becomes four, four becomes eight, 8 becomes 16, 16 becomes 32, 32 becomes 64, 64 becomes 128, and it multiplies. One damn fool makes many damn fools. It only takes one idiot and whole heap of idiot about the place. And the society now is fighting to get correct information to our people, because there is information overload and there is influence. You know, you just need to sit behind a mic. You don't have to have no sense, you know. They call you a host. You're a host. You just say you have a life. You have no training in broadcasting. You have no, there's nothing about you, but you're a host. And you run a program. And because people see you behind a microphone, then you have influence. How can the society allow them little people here to be destroying the fabric of the democracy without responsibility? That can't work. Because as I pointed out to you, hold on there, listeners. I think I have a little bit, I have something to respond to here. Let me just see if I can respond to it. I have not done anything like that, but let me just check. Okay, let me just check. Okay, that's up here. Let me give you an illustration. A Cat 5 storm is bearing down on your nation. A Cat 5 storm. No, I have not done it. I've not done anything. Just hold on. Try that in 50 seconds, but I haven't done it. A Cat 5 storm is bearing down on your nation. Government, through its Met service, the Met office, is dealing with science. It is science that puts man on the moon and send rocket into space. It is science that puts a plane into into the middle of the hurricane to give us a reading of wind speed and to track the trajectory of it. Science do that. And the government have one man up at the mess office named, what name? Evan Thompson. He has developed a reputation of giving factual information to the society. He used to come on TV, J, come read weather. The government have a information minister. They have an information gathering process. On top of that, you have news organizations like Nationwide with reputable journalists like Hughes and George Davis and even RJR and the Gleaner, the Observer, the Prime Minister himself putting out information that a Cat 5 storm is bearing down on the country. And you have one man in a town I tell people say, no storm now come. Huh? And people listen to him over Evan Thompson. Now what training that man have in forecasting weather? What training does he have in forecasting weather? What him know about weather? He look like a weatherman. Him look like him going to spend one day in a university, being trained in the science of forecasting weather. And you want to tell me, say that man mislead your people, put them in danger and at risk, and nothing can be done about it? No, man. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? They are doing work on a road and they have flagmen. You know flagmen? And they give the man two flags. One's a green and one's a red. And the flagman is told when the traffic is to move, put up the green flag. And when the traffic is to stop, put up the red flag. Can you imagine if that man, when the traffic is to stop, put up the green flag and put the lives of the motorists in danger? You know, fire that man and send him go to prison. You know, fire that man and send him go to prison. Because he has injured the lives of people by giving them misinformation and false information. Misinformation and false information is a threat to people's lives and safety. And it must not be taken lightly. You cannot go into a building where there is no fire and shout fire. People are going to run, and in running out, they may trample other people. That is irresponsible. You don't do that in a public space. And when a Cat 5 hurricane is bearing down on a country with high levels of illiteracy, you cannot have some people suggesting that no storm now come and allow people not to be prepared and the storm come and hurt them. That requires an action. And if there is no law on the books, we have to put one on the book. Because that's what Parliament is there for. They are the legislators, they must put something in place that cauterize misinformation. Because you have what is called also cognitive biases or confirmation bias, anchoring bias, and other cognitive biases, which lead people to accept information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs. And here is where religion becomes a challenge. Because there are some people in the church that have what is called confirmation bias. Because as far as they are concerned, a God wrath. So they dismiss the signs, they dismiss everything, and lay it on the feet of God. So they too mislead people. Some pastors prophesying that somehow the nation is under judgment. And they dismiss the signs. Cognitive bias. Because when you already believe something, no matter what other people say, they can't, you hear that? Old dog, no new trick, can't teach old dog new trick. No matter how you try. I tried this morning to talk to a couple ladies in the market. I lost. And I found early out in that conversation that they were going to have none of it. Quite frankly, they think that you are insulting their intelligence because you come going like you bright and you know it all, and them don't know what them know already. That's what Mr. Holness have to be dealing with here in this country, you know. Cognitive biases. They accept the information that once them hear it, no matter how absurd it is, once they hear it, they say, yes, it's a confirmation to what I was feeling in my spirit. My God. That's why we must, one of the things that I've been disappointed with as I've conducted this show and I've listened to people and I've gone across this country, is that Jamaica and many Jamaicans are undereducated. They're under fool, you know. But the system of education in Jamaica is not doing a very good job in developing critical thinking. And the nation is now suffering because of that. Then you have emotional appeals. Because misinformation often exploit emotions. You know, you know, a preacher, if you know your Bible, the Bible said that the spirit of the prophet is subject to the prophet. A lot of what you see in church is emotions, you know. In people getting in the spirit. It's emotional. You can act on people's emotions. You know, artists, Vibes Cartel, Buju Banton. They are theatrical. They connect through emotions. Now, you have 5 senses, you see? You have 5 senses. Your senses are not to be relied on to make decisions. Because your senses can trick you, you know. That's where original sin came from. I'll get back to this at another time. Misinformation exploits people's emotions. And if I make you happy, or I make you feel good, I can exploit you, you know. Did you know that there are perverts? I don't want to give people ideas that lure children into activities that are unwholesome by simply stirring them up emotionally. If you listen to many of the vloggers, you'd realize that they are very bland, very unintelligent, but they are masters of emotional intelligence. And I pointed this out to you before, and I'm going to do it again. To give you an understanding of how it works. Rosalie is emotionally intelligent. That's, you know, Rosalie. So when Rosalie said that she's going to her gynotechnical, it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake, you know. It's not that she don't know that the word is gynecologist. But gynecologist does not appeal to anyone's emotions. Gynotechnical does, because it sounds funny. The less educated you are, the more you rely on your emotions, because it now becomes feelings. It's a feel-good thing. And gynotechnical went viral. Why? Sorry about that. It is very important to raise the intellectual consciousness of individuals, to lower their emotional responses. You know, girls tend to fall into a terrible trap that men set for them because of the same unintelligent way that they go about relationships. Women fall for it too. the nicest man. The nicest man to you. Oh, he opens the car door. He picks you up. He buys you nice things. He makes you feel like you are the cat's meows and the dog bow wow. And you feel, oh, what a nice man. And you give in. And the next day you're ghosted. Emotions. Exploits that weakness, making it more engaging and memorable than factual information. Think about this. Andrew Holness caused the storm because he wants to build a digital city in Santa Cruz. Wow. Memorably, that's not factual. Because you have to apply logic to an argument to test the factuality of it. And unintelligent people don't do that. They don't. They lack the critical thinking skills to evaluate emotions. And that is why the government must step in at this point and do something about it. Some of these lives must be shut down. Some of these people on air spouting vitriolic speech, hate speech, must be shut down. If you are given a platform, you can have your information, say it how you want. Don't mislead the people. And I'm not speaking here now about personal thing. Listen, it's not, you want to call the prime minister whatever, well, you go ahead. That is showing your values, your respect, and how you know how nothing about you. Okay? That's not what I'm talking about. You want to call him that is what you want to call. That only shows that you know how no brought up, see? Your low life, and you don't have nothing about you. You don't know what, you know how to respect anyone. You not even respect yourself. But when you are going to use your platform to spread misinformation that places vulnerable people at risk, the government has a responsibility to protect its people from that. And in any self-respecting society, that should never be allowed. When you come on air, what you should be, especially in a disaster. And so I am expecting the government to announce soon that they are going to be monitoring these lives. They will be monitoring the lives. And the justice minister needs to start writing the legislation to cauterize misinformation. Misinformation will mash up the country. Imagine you want to go to the United States of America, and the airline delayed the flight, and the people from the airline send you information, say the flight canceled. What do you think the airline will do with that staff member? Misinformation cannot be taken lightly. Prime Minister, Justice Minister, Attorney General. Because misinformation also places a distrust in institutions like the Med Service of Jamaica. It can lead people to seek alternative sources of information, which may spread misinformation. And I'd have you know that it is not necessarily that the information is above the people's capacity to understand. But sometimes it's not communicated in a way that resonates with them. I don't know how we're going to fix this, but I suspect that something needs to be done about it. I'm coming right back. You cry, and I never. Doubtless. Okay. Shoot.
Do with just the decay of carcasses and speeding that up. I went on Friday, didn't see any jumpers in the air, and wondered, on a serious note, if anything could be done about getting some junkers in the area to take up some of the carcasses. Also, the number of persons and communities that are rising in terms of water, to do with just the decaying of carcasses and speeding that up. I went on Friday, didn't see any junkers in the air, and wondered, on a serious note, if anything could be done about getting some junkers in the area to take up some of the carcasses. Also, the number of persons and communities that are rising in terms of water, to do with just the decaying of carcasses and speeding that up. I went on Friday, didn't see any junkers in the air, and wondered, on a serious note, if anything could be done about getting some junkers in the area.
Boy, I tell you something. This is all very exciting.
All right. We're back with you. Caroline. Do we have any callers that can
Allow me to check, please.
Good night, sir. Good night, John. Hello.
What's up? Go on, neighbor.
I'm fine. I'm fine, sir. Hi.
Boy, I never know somebody in the box there, but in Canada, yeah? In Canada.
Yes.
I was on my computer doing some stuff, you know?
Uh-huh.
Never know that I'm into the box, neighbor, but you know, I listen to you every day.
You
Right
do.
through the day.
Well, thanks,
Hello?
man. Great. Yes.
Yeah, hearing your properly now, the phone is turned on.
Okay.
Yeah, so me and my wife is here listening, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So nice. That is so nice, sir. How is she?
Yeah, man, she's fine. Yeah,
Oh, she's fine. Uh-huh.
she said,
Oh, hi.
Hi. Hi, wife. How you do?
Good.
Lovely, sir.
so she's a Nigerian.
One, you struck gold there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you go out with a neighbor.
What you mean? What you mean, sir?
Yeah, man.
Nice girls are in Nigeria, man. Nice
Yeah,
girls.
man. Yeah, man. Love the
You're a
lady,
smart-
you know?
You're a
Love the
smart
lady.
man.
Yeah, man. She also a pastor.
A pastor?
Yeah.
What are you saying to me?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So you're a church man?
Yes, I have to be a churchman, have a pastor in my life. I have to be a churchman.
You know, sir, I've always wondered about being married to a pastor who's a woman. And you know, we man how we stay.
Yeah, we know that, you know?
Don't say nothing more. Don't say nothing more.
All right.
But she's a woman first, a pastor second.
Exactly.
There you go.
You know it go already.
There you go.
You know we Jamaica.
Wow,
I know we
lot of
Jamaica now.
imaginations. My listeners are thinking, look at that. Oh, you see you. I tell you, she's a woman. Hey there, Rev. Hey there, Rev.
Yeah,
What you doing?
she want to follow our page. She's a gospel artist.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah, she want to follow her. She's gonna tell you our page.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and give it to me.
Sandra Osaige.
Say that again.
Sandra Osaige. Sandra.
I tell you what you do, John, because I'm on here now.
Yes.
WhatsApp it to me. No, WhatsApp. You just send it to my page. Message me. Hello, neighbor.
Okay, I will message you in your inbox.
Right. You put it in my inbox. And
I'll put it online. I write online. Because we want everybody to follow her.
Oh, she put out music?
Yes, I have music out there, yes. Yeah, man.
So she have a church?
Yes, yes.
No, I don't have a church.
She don't have a church yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet. But she have a church or she worship.
Let me talk to a pastor there. Let me talk to pastor. Hello, pastor.
Oh, hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, fantastic. Now you see the hurricane that has come to Jamaica. What are your views from a perspective of theology as to the storm? You have a view on it?
Not really. The only thing that because I have a lot of Jamaicans around me,
So all we did was, when we heard about the news, all we did was to pray.
You
Yeah.
pray.
Just
Yeah.
pray, pray. And, the Bible said, if the people that are called by his name will humble themselves and, call upon his name, he will hear and forgive our sins. Sometimes these things comes as a result of, what has gone on wrong in the land, and all we have to do is just pray that God will show mercy, and intervene and heal the land and reach out to those that have, lost their loved ones and lost their homes and all that, Yeah.
That's very nice. That's very nice. So you love the Jamaican man.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. John. You hear him here? John.
You see does the name alone tell you, neighbor?
I tell you, brother.
Powerful
I
name.
tell you. Oh boy, John. Huh?
Yeah, me I tell you.
Oh boy.
Yeah, man.
I tell you, this
Yeah,
is
so
serious.
neighbor. So
John.
neighbor. So neighbor.
Yes.
Let me tell you my thing about the storm and what's going on.
Yes.
Believe me, I really don't love what's going on.
Right.
Because too much misinformation.
Oh boy,
over here, me feel correct from people.
In Canada?
In Canada, neighbor.
Yes.
Today I am on the road doing some business. You understand?
Yes.
And I buck up on this guy. He's a white guy.
Yes.
And I hear the guy telling me about why them said the storm come to Jamaica. Christian lady tell him, say the government is working, want to legalize obia.
Oh God. In Canada, you hear that, sir?
In Canada. And right now, me have a lot of people me feel try. But go to a barber shop yesterday to go trim.
Yeah, me too.
And me feel correct some people and I try to educate them.
Listeners, you hear what me I tell you? It's spread over
everywhere.
The world.
Misinformation and lies. And the government make the storm, build the storm. The most ridiculous thing I ever heard in my lifetime. And people buy into it. People believe it. You believe that, neighbor? People believe it,
I cannot believe it, sir. I cannot believe it. Boy, this is what we have come to, sir. Terrible. Terrible. Is he there? No, we have lost him. Oh, we have lost him. Sorry about that. Millicent? Berry? What about a Blaze Mix? A Blaze Mix? A Blaze Mix, you're up,
Yes, I'm up. Listen, what the gentleman just said a while ago in regards to misinformation.
Sorry, what you say? You have to move on a little bit faster?
Yes, I'm going to move fast too. So everybody can get a chance to talk. What the gentleman just said he heard in Canada, I'm hearing the same thing here in Atlanta. Especially about Deanne Jackson Miller. People are saying Deanne Jackson Miller needs to get off the air. She lacks credibility because she's one of the person who is out there, especially some of the videos I watch with her on YouTube. Deanne Jackson Miller is not doing any good for what she's saying in some of her videos on YouTube. And the way she keeps pressuring the government like everything can be done in one day. Everything can't done in one day. Everything takes organization and patience. But Deanne Jackson Miller, people up here in Atlanta are beating her bad. They're like, why? How and when she becomes so, especially lacking credibility? Why she keep doing all these things? Because I heard she was supposed to get a position if Marky G won the election. He didn't. And now she's angry and bitter And that's why she keep doing the things that she's doing. Every twist and turn, Dean Jackson Miller and Andrew Holness, non-stop. This is crazy. Someone needs to check her every time. So that's my piece, neighbor. That's what people up here, people in Atlanta is mad at her, crazy mad at her, because she has a platform and she's using it to bring down the government.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, that is very interesting that people abroad are catching on here.
Yes, in Atlanta here, me and my friend them and some other people and on social media here in Atlanta, a lot of people is very disgruntled with her.
Yes.
It's like she want the government to do everything in 1 day or 2 days. And
yes.
Aid and help take time and patience.
Yes, so you're right.
So that's my piece to you, neighbor. I'm gonna leave you so you can talk to other people. But somebody needs to check her. We need to talk about it a lot more in Jamaica, so she can hear what people have to say about her and what she's doing is a disservice to what is happening with this big disaster right now in Jamaica.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So thank you very much and have a good night.
Appreciate you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's see if we can scratch off something with Scratchy here. Good night to you, Scratchy.
Good night, neighbor. Night, Caroline and the viewers.
Scratchy, what are you doing?
Yes, neighbor. Good night.
Scratchy, I want you to appreciate the point I am making that right now in Jamaica, the major discussion is not about the relief. It is about who sent the storm. How can that be?
That's definitely poor news. That's really unfortunate. Definitely unfortunate.
And Scratchy, this had to be sourced from somewhere. Someone start this nonsense, and so the minds of the people are not on the government working with them to relieve them of their plight. It's whether or not it is the government that sent the hurricane. We're in trouble.
Definitely, neighbor. With misinformation, neighbor, we're definitely in trouble, neighbor, because these informations are so easily for persons to just jump onto them and log on to them. And we must make it clear, neighbor, that misinformation have no address, neighbor. So misinformation flies all around and go all about it, have no specific address. But yeah, we're definitely in trouble, neighbor. We're definitely in trouble. And to be honest, neighbor, the government hands are tied to a certain extent. I don't think there's much.
Before you get to the tide, Scratchy, the society is falling apart in a sense because affected communities, rather than they are already under stress, and rather than focus on their future, they have to be deciphering whether the hurricane was really sent by the government to take away them land, Scratchy. It's not a pretty piece of thing we are dealing with here in Jamaica. It's a serious thing, you know.
It's more than one. Yes, neighbor. It's misinformation and also a lack of education as well, neighbor. I think the both of them are twinning together, neighbor. Misinformation strive where there's a lack of education, neighbor. That's when misinformation strive. And I think that's one of the main reasons why misinformation is striving so much in our society today, neighbor. Because of the high rate of lack of understanding, lack of education, and lack of ability to research and find out things on your own.
Okay. Why do you say the government's hands are tied? If there is a threat to its people and there are people in the society deliberately spreading misinformation, Scratchy, why is it that the government can't do anything about it?
Neighbor, I think the reason I was researching it and looking up why is the reason why the government cannot really do anything about it, neighbor. And we have to understand, neighbor, that all of us, and not just me alone, neighbor, all of us, government especially, neighbor, all of us are guided by what we call a constitution, neighbor. And this constitution was put in place in 1962. So no matter whichever laws or act that Jamaica, that politicians create inside the parliament, every act or law that is passed by parliament is guided by the constitution, neighbor. And this constitution came in 1962 when we gained our independence. And this is what guides us as how we can create laws or how we go about stuff. And there's a main thing in the constitution, a section of the constitution, neighbor, that says persons have a right to freedom of speech and freedom of opinion. And in this hurricane context, neighbor, the same constitution tells you that persons cannot be charged for having a scientific opinion or a political opinion. So in this case, neighbor, saying that hurricane was man-made and the hurricane was built by a person, that is more of a scientific opinion, the law is saying. And they're saying that you cannot basically just go and charge a person for that because that have to be proven, neighbor. Because whoever said the hurricane is man-made, in the case of the law, the government should say go ahead and charge them, neighbor. The government will have to go to court, have to prove now that the hurricanes were real. That is a lot of resources and funds again. So that is what I mean sometimes when I say the government hands are tied, because we have a bigger constitution, neighbor, that is backing the government from creating any form of laws or anything that can seriously go after these persons. No, in the case of saying...
Who write the law, Scratchy?
Neighbor, the government write the laws, but the constitution was created by our forefathers, neighbor. For a change in the constitution, it's not the changing in the constitutional law is not the same like how you can go to parliament and amend an act or amend a regular law. To change a constitutional law in most cases, neighbor, it requires a referendum and it requires a 2/3 majority vote from both upper house and lower house.
I see.
So in this case, neighbor, that is why I think the government, I have a problem with it, neighbor, and I think the government also have a problem with it, neighbor. But the whole constitutional law about free speech and freedom of expression, that is what bind the government and tie the government and to a certain extent.
So free speech cannot involve telling a blind man to jump in a river?
No, free speech cannot involve telling a blind man. That's direct danger. You direct someone in, neighbor. But based on what the law is saying in this case, neighbor. Based on what the law is saying in this case, neighbor. Someone said the hurricane is fake or the hurricane is man-made. The law is telling us that that is a scientific opinion.
What about when you tell him that the hurricane now come? That is free speech?
Telling someone that the hurricane now come, again, neighbor, you have to prove what the law set up, neighbor. The law deal with mischief. You have to prove how did this cause mischief. Persons will have to come and make a report and say, this person's pronouncement saying that the hurricane not come is the reason why I stay where I stayed and I suffer my misfortunate. So persons will have to make a complaint, neighbor. But to say that I could go and charge someone, they say the law don't push it to that level unless there's public mischief. Sometimes it's context, neighbor. Maybe the person had come and say, the hurricane is going to come at 5 p.m. and all on the house are going to mash up. And then there was a lot of persons who leave from a certain location because of what he said, the hurricane is going to come 5 p.m. and no hurricane don't come 5 p.m. Then the government have a case of public mischief there. So neighbor, it's just the law. The law is just so complex. And that's why I said to a certain level, I feel like the law tied the government on. I personally never believe that something needs to be done for these persons with the misinformation, but it cannot be done through the law. I think what the government can do now, neighbor, is go and meet with these social media owners, neighbor, meet with TikTok, and meet with the Meta, all of these persons, neighbor. You can put restriction on your country, neighbor. The government has that power where they can go meet with these social media persons, restrict certain things, neighbor, flag certain information that come on these social media. They did it for America. They did it in the run up to the election in America, where certain things, they flag certain things and certain... They can also do it, neighbor, but it's the government who have to go and meet with these people who are running these platforms. These people come in our country, neighbor, unregulated, set up them platform, and all of us just run on it. And the misinformation is coming from these platforms, and I think government need to go and meet with these persons, neighbor, and put some form of restriction on our country. Australia ban their young persons from social media, age 16 and up and under. A lot of countries right now, neighbors, are taking steps, but they are not taking steps through legislation because enough of them sign on to the UN Charter of Fundamental Rights, neighbor, that secure persons' freedom of right and freedom of expression. So what they do is they go in and meet with these companies and tell them that, listen, for my demographic area, you're going to restrict certain misinformation, you're going to flag certain things. I think the government can take that approach.
Okay, what about political leadership in the interest of people? some of these vloggers are aligned, if not by membership, by their speech to the opposition. What about leadership from the opposition, sir, to say to these people, no, can't write. What you are doing here is wrong. Scratchy, I hear today that Jamaica got generators, and the Prime Minister is renting generators to people. Is that so?
I didn't get that information. The Prime Minister is renting.
Yes, sir. The Prime Minister is renting out generators that were donated to Jamaica, to Jamaican for relief. He's renting it to business owners.
I have to definitely get some information on that one, neighbor.
Well, I kid you not, sir. One of the major, I would say, voice that say these things for the PNP. I heard saying that the Prime Minister is renting out generators to Scratchy. This can't wait, you know. This
Definitely
can't wait. And
if
you see the comments and the amount of people agreeing with that, it is very concerning, sir.
But neighbor, you raised a valid point earlier where you said about the opposition, neighbor. And this is what we have to understand, neighbor. So the context of Jamaica, neighbor, and how Jamaica is, neighbor. You know that this government, neighbor, there are a lot of things and the laws in the books. There are a lot of things that government can do, yes, neighbor. But look at it, neighbor. You know that this government can come and say, all right, we're going to restrict that, or we're going to ban this, or we're going to ban that. And that can overthrow the government to lose an election because the other opposition party who are right that are not in accordance with government. So you see a lot of these things, neighbor, lot of our pain points in terms of social issues that are affecting us, neighbor. It has to be done from a collaborative effort between government and opposition, neighbor. No one to seek to cause, neighbor, the government can come with something in the neighbor, be to the government disadvantage, and the opposition use it as their advantage. So I think, neighbor, we have to find a balance. That balance needs to strike between both opposition and government. Because we have some serious problems facing in this country, neighbor. The misinformation is getting way out of hand. And one of the best ways to fix misinformation, neighbor, is through education and educating the population. But clearly, neighbor, there's a lot of Jamaicans, neighbor, who are not to a certain level of understanding, not even education. Because you can't use basic understanding. They are not at that level of understanding it, neighbor. And a lot of them like to run with it instead of research.
Telling me that they misinterpret loan for rent when he says he's going to loan them. I think they're thinking he's ever going to rent it. And that the people are saying that they don't understand what loan means. Loan.
Maybe that might be the situation to neighbor.
Scotty, listen to Gustav, and I want your comment on this.
Yes, sir. And the GLP are being patriotic while the PMP are being PMP. Big difference.
Neighbor.
PNP in a crisis. What?
Yes, sir. And the GLP are being patriotic while the PMP are being PMP. Big difference.
Wow. Oh my goodness. In terms of the recovery, Gustav, a long road ahead, you think?
And it is even more longer if the people continue to show this high volume of ignorance in the society, sir, because it will deny them or it will not allow them to participate patriotically when time a fraction of government is representing them as PMP and not patriotically. So what it does, it will not give the unified approach or collaboration where it is necessary, only because there's a fraction that is playing politics and then accusing the other side of doing what they're doing.
Hello, neighbor.
PNP in a crisis. Wow.
Yes, sir. And the GLP are being patriotic while the PMP are being PMP. Big difference.
Scratchy.
Yes, neighbor.
Gustav is pointing out that the recovery efforts is threatened by this misinformation that the people are displaying ignorance, Scratchy. Is that not very concerning KC said today that the aftermath could be worse than the hurricane itself if we don't get this right?
Both are correct, neighbor. Neighbor, if we don't get this right, neighbor, the aftermath could be even worse, neighbor. Yes, we know that the preparation and then we'll see what happened during the hurricane, neighbor. But this is nowhere, neighbor, where the tedious part is, neighbor. This is where the uncomfortable feeling start to come in, neighbor. This is where the feeling of distress and stress come in, neighbor. This is where some person's boiling point reach a certain level, neighbor. So yes, neighbor, this phase, if it is not done on a level or done correctly, neighbor, it can be very, very chaotic, neighbor, and it can breed certain form of unrest and stuff like that. And if the opposition is not careful, neighbor, in the rhetoric and what they are spewing, neighbor, we can see something serious happening down there in the western end of that island, neighbor. Something very, very serious. And Gusto is 100% correct, neighbor. In a crisis, neighbor, you don't need political parties, neighbor, to be politicking, neighbor. In a crisis, what you need is the governance. You need the governing party, neighbor, and the opposition. The PNP should always be in an opposition mode, neighbor, instead of the PNP mode. And Gusto is 100% correct, neighbor. You cannot have a government, neighbor, who is going about a crisis and he has to be talking to a political party. We don't want to be talking. Yes, I don't think that the government should be government and opposition, neighbor. It cannot be government and a political party that is seeking political mileage and politicking the situation, neighbor. It must be from an opposition level where it is more professional and it is more organized, neighbor. So Gusto is 100% correct, neighbor. 100%.
Yes, and Scratchy, I heard the Prime Minister saying that in a few weeks' time, all of the people who have come in to help us are going to be gone. And that Jamaica is going to be left on its own to manage its own problem. Scratchy, these people will need food for months.
Neighbor, this is not a short-term fix, neighbor. This is not something short-term. These persons, whatever the ongoing food efforts, as I see, that are being made for persons down there in that belt, neighbor, it is going to be for months, neighbor. It is going to go into next year, neighbor. This is not a 3 or a 4 year recovery. 5 years time from now, we're going to still rebuilding down there, saying, neighbor. 6 year time from now, we're going to still rebuilding in the neighbor. So this is not a quick fix, neighbor. So yes, neighbor, these people are going to need food right through. And the Prime Minister made a valid point. At some point in time, neighbor, this aid is going to slow down, this aid is going to stop, and the responsibility will be solely on us, neighbor.
No, Scratchy, the planes are not coming back. The planes, the airplanes, Scratchy, and the ship, and the people we have on the island is a response as a first responder, Scratchy. The planes are slowing down. Some countries send one plane in, they now send two. This is going to be a Jamaica problem, Scratchy.
Definitely, neighbor. That's why the Prime Minister asked, neighbor, that the parishes that weren't affected as much, neighbor, to push extra, neighbor, because the task is going to be put on us, neighbor, to help out this side of the island, neighbor. This is going to dry up at some point in time. It's not going to be fair. But these helicopters, neighbor, that we see, they're not going to be here for much longer, neighbor. And we see how the world is behaving right now, neighbor. There's crisis all over the world. So at some point in time, these aid might have to move to a next section that might require them. So neighbor, we have to just make hay while the sun shine, neighbor, and make use of what we are getting in the best possible way. And it's good, neighbor. It is good to know that the Prime Minister is forward thinking and is aware of that, neighbor, that at some point in time, this will stop and the government will have to take full control and the citizens of Jamaica will have to play their role in a more enhanced and deeper way, neighbor. I definitely agree, neighbor.
Yes. And therefore, Scratchy, I think that the Prime Minister, as he is saying, is coming up with a master plan to ensure that we can pick up from where the aid leaves off, Scratchy. Is it not therefore important, Scratchy, that this become an all of government, all of Jamaica effort? Because, Scratchy, if we don't do it, Scratchy, if we don't do it, I understand, Scratchy, that with all that we are hearing on media, that when you go on the ground there, it is almost worst.
Definitely, neighbor. I would expect that, neighbor, that it will be worse on the ground, neighbor. Neighbor, I understand there, neighbor. There are certain things that happen down in these areas, neighbor, that come out, or certain information that come out. I understand, neighbor, because these things are born out of a crisis, neighbor. I expect persons who are going to come and say that they haven't received any form of aid as yet, neighbor. I expect persons who might say that they are not pleased with the pace of where things are going. I expect all of that, neighbor, because I understand how crises are, and these are things that are born out of crisis, neighbor. But what I will not try to understand or try to be calm with, neighbor, is the fact, neighbor, that whenever, yes, it's a crisis, neighbor, but whenever things reach a human, if we should allow this to reach a humanitarian crisis, neighbor, that's when I think that's when we're going to be in big trouble, neighbor. If we start to have situation coming out of the West, neighbor, where persons are starting to get malnourished and where persons are dying from because they don't eat anything, that is definitely a cause of concern, neighbor. And that is when I would definitely be concerned, neighbor. And at the moment, I don't see us going to that direction, neighbor. I don't see things going to be in that bad. We are trying, yes, we know the gravity of the situation, but we are trying our best to make sure that we don't reach to a humanitarian crisis, neighbor. And persons just need to continue to share information with government. And as time goes by, neighbor, things are going to get better, neighbor. The process will become easier, neighbor. The government will get a better handling and a better footing of what is going on. And I hear persons, neighbor, bashing the Prime Minister about this $10 million grant, neighbor. This $10 million was given to these members of parliament, neighbor. It's not a one-time fix or situation to say, yes, $10 million for St. Elizabeth or whatsoever for that section. No, the Prime Minister said that the $10 million, neighbor, was for politicians, for the member of parliament to help persons who are in dire situation in a constituency. They might have an extended family, neighbor, who might be sleeping under a tarpaulin. And based on the structure of their house, it might just need a couple of zinc, 100,000 might can fix it. You have $10 million, they can help that person and fix that person's roof. So it's not the end all of the situation. I think something big is coming, neighbor. I'm expecting a big announcement towards housing, neighbor. I know this government and the Prime Minister by extension operate, neighbor, and I think something big is coming, neighbor. It is just being finalized at this moment. The person just need to hang on and understand, neighbor, that yes, the government is doing their best and with our resources and what we have at our disposal, neighbor, and it will get better, neighbor. We still haven't been 3 weeks into this as yet. Things is going to get better, trust me.
Confirmed today, Scratchy, that the cat bond has been approved and will be released to the government. $25 billion coming, Scratchy, of our own money, insurance. Holness ensure the country should do a lot for the recovery.
Definitely, neighbor. $25 billion, it won't fix all of our issues. Every single damage, every single thing that we see, guys, $25 billion won't be able to cover it, neighbor. But the $25 billion will definitely be able to bring us
it's a lot of money that doing a scratch.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, neighbor, but based on the gravity of our damage and what we have, neighbor, it's a lot more than that, neighbor. So we have to a lot of these persons, neighbor.
1 billion is 1,000 million, you know, scratch.
Exactly, but yes, 1 billion is 1,000 million, neighbor. Yeah. But the extent of our damage, neighbor, is $7 billion US dollars. Yeah, $7 billion US dollars will equivalent to about 1 trillion Jamaican dollars.
Yes, that's scratch to the survey, but boy, when you have $25 billion to start spending in a disaster, Scratchy, you have a kickstart.
Yeah, but I definitely not gonna say, neighbor, you don't have a kickstart, neighbor. You definitely have a kickstart, neighbor. But when you start to spend this money, neighbor, it sounds big, neighbor. But when you start to spend this money, neighbor, you see the gravity of the situation. The Prime Minister spoke earlier. He said that there's a school bill. I heard the minister say that there's an enormous
600 schools damaged, Scratchy, hospitals.
Yes. I heard the minister say that she see an enormous bill so far, and she's trying to work on that bill. The agriculture bill, neighbor, I expect the agriculture sector, neighbor, is going to need total help in terms to revamp, neighbor.
The agriculture sector may take the whole 25 billion, Scratchy. You're right. You're right. Uh-huh.
And not to mention housing solutions, neighbor. And I heard the director of the ODPM said that some 90,000 families, neighbor, our roofs were gone, neighbor. And remember, we must put in context, neighbor, 90,000 family doesn't necessarily mean 90,000 persons, neighbor. If it's a family of 2, that's 180,000. If it's a family of 4, that's probably 360,000. So it's a whole lot, neighbor. It's a whole lot. But the greatest thing, neighbor, we have $25 billion that we are not taking from the consolidated fund from central government that we can help.
Yeah, before I go to Harry, by the way, I heard the other people had big guests on their program tonight, and they didn't even have 100 people watching them. I don't know what they're doing. They're trying to beat us, you know, Scratchy. But we don't have. You are the biggest thing around town. You people want to hear.
Politics Plus is definitely number one, neighbor. No matter who tries to.
They were trying to beat us tonight. They want to beat our numbers. They They brought on celebrity, but we still beat them. They're not even come close. Anyway, one more point before I go to my friend Harry. Scratch, I got a call today that the campaign for the next election has actually started. And I discussed this with Casey today, and I said to him that the script for the next election is being written right now, Scratchy. You cannot escape the politics of this moment, Scratchy. Am I not correct, Scratchy, that if Holness succeeds, Jamaica wins, he wins a fourth term? Am I not correct?
Before I answer, neighbor, I want to make the point, neighbor, that politicians, neighbor, would always be politicians, neighbor. And politicians would always see ways and means how they can capitalize by whatever situation, neighbor, to make themselves and them party look good, neighbor. And I think the reason why we are getting the type of response that we are getting from the PNP, neighbor, because the PNP know exactly what you just say is true, neighbor. The PNP understand the politics, neighbor. If no one in Jamaica understands and knows politics, the People's National Party, they understand politics, neighbor. They know politics, neighbor. And they know that Jamaica looking good in this situation will automatically be bounced and the Prime Minister looking good. And it will affect their chances again at the poll. Case in point, neighbor, they have a case that you can use. They're always looking back at COVID. They're always remembering COVID and using COVID with the situation, neighbor. They saw the masterclass of the Prime Minister in COVID, and they saw how Jamaicans came out and rewarded him. And they know that this neighbor have the same scenario and potential of showing a masterclass of the Prime Minister going forward. In times of disaster, neighbor, we have a Prime Minister who tends to always show up strong, neighbor, who tends to be level-headed when it comes to disaster, who knows what he's doing, neighbor. And I think the Prime Minister, the PNP and the People's Opposition Party, neighbor, they are more even afraid of the Prime Minister, neighbor, within times of disaster, because they know how he is, neighbor, and they know how he commands how he commands the ground, neighbor, and how authority is very strong, and the benefit that we can get out of this, neighbor. And that is why I think the PNP is behaving the way they are, neighbor, because they can see that. Hence the reason why Jeffrey Golding and other PNP members, neighbors, are so eager to get funding in their hand, because they want to make it look as if they are the ones who are doing things and they can also institute change and make decisions as well. But the Prime Minister knows what he's doing, neighbor. He's not gonna be political as them. If you notice, he still donate funds towards the CDF, despite a lot of us not being happy with it or saying that the Prime Minister shouldn't give them anything, neighbor. But the Prime Minister is in government and he knows what he's doing, neighbor. And the PNP is very much afraid of him, neighbor.
Okay, so then let's put the politics out there and let's understand that this moment is more than what meets the eye, Scratchy. The political strategies in the parties have calculated this moment and know, Scratchy, that if Holness shines at this moment, his political stock are going to rise, and he is almost certain to be re-elected, almost overwhelmingly, Scratchy. This is a part of the politics here, Scratchy, and it is bound to affect how things are done on the ground.
Yes, neighbor, because look at the neighbor, we talk about this, look at it now, neighbor, we talk about the disaster, yes, sir. Scratchy, you know that this disaster is going to show off our economic input. This disaster is going to show off our unemployment rate. This disaster is going to show off our poverty rate. There's a lot of things that is going to show off, but none of us don't look at it and say this disaster has also thrown a wrench in the opposition as well, neighbor.
Yes.
This disaster, neighbor, has also thrown a wrench in the operation of the opposition, neighbor. Their plan that they had, neighbor, and their agenda that was set for going forward, neighbor, is totally thrown. They have to come with a new plan now, neighbor. The attacking of the Prime Minister character is damaged now, neighbor. The opposition have to re-strategize, neighbor.
Yeah.
And they have to be careful now, neighbor, because persons are in distress, persons are in stress, and persons are looking on. So the rhetoric of the opposition, neighbor, has to be very cautious. They have to be so. In this situation, neighbor, it's possible, neighbor, that we might see this total annihilation of the opposition, neighbor, because they cannot get to out opposers how they would want to on certain issues. Now, neighbor, the economy should fall back by 15-20%. It is totally understandable, and the opposition cannot come and cry about that. If unemployment rate should rise tomorrow morning, it is totally understandable, and the opposition cannot come and campaign about that. So in every way, neighbor, in every step, neighbor, this disaster is not doing good in no way, shape, or form for the opposition. Whatever traction they were gaining and whatever agenda they had planned, neighbor, this disaster, neighbor, has totally disrupted that. And my granny always tell me, neighbor, when man a plan, God a wipe.
Aye, well, Scratchy, remember what was front and center in the news was about the Prime Minister meeting with Golding for constitutional reform. That, nobody no busy with that again.
Yeah, but going straight until 2030, 29, whenever the next general election is to be called, neighbor. The rebuilding of these parishes is going to still be in progress, neighbor, and this is what the government will be judged on going forward into an election campaign.
And will be leading the headlines for months, Scratchy.
For months, the government will be leading the headline. The government will be getting, they're going to be, neighbor, the worst in the PNP, they meet these press conference. They don't like these press conferences that are held by the government, neighbor. They know the power of these press conferences. They know it. And they are so scared and afraid of it, neighbor. The PNP see what is coming, neighbor. They know that they have no talk in this, neighbor. That's why the opposition leader is fighting so much to make it look as if, yes, they want to be a part of it and everything, neighbor. Just neighbor, it's all about campaigning.
Yeah, a little bit early. Nice scratch off that, Gary. Harry? Harry?
I'm here, neighbor. Good night.
Harry, let me hear your view, Harry, on misinformation and the threat to the society and what you think the government should be doing about it, or what you think as a society we could be doing about it. First, I want you to address the threat that it poses to the society, especially where there is such high illiteracy.
Well, Scratchy touched on it in the latter part, but it is a threat to the overall development and the culture that we need to get rid of, right? Because when we look at it, looking in terms of with what the opposition is currently doing, because they're performing very well, I'll give them that. I'll give them a 10 out of 10 for their performance and aiding by providing different channels and mediums for this type of misinformation to be spread, because they know if they can show ways in which the government comes up short, if they can tweak a little information, because we know how the English language is in a neighbor. You can change a few things, and my learned MP, Miss Burchell, could take a page out of that book, where all you have to do is change a few things to change the mindset of people, right? Something so simple as the opposition coming out and trying to beat the administration to the punch. I don't know how they think that makes sense, but if they can get the information out before, spread their I'm gonna call it their truth, right? If they can put their information out first, with what's happening with this generation, they gravitate to that, especially neighbor. They know how to package it and package it well. Case in point, they have persons who are social media experts, and they push that because that is an attraction for this generation.
Do you think that you mentioned social media experts? Do you think that the party itself is influencing the views on social media? Are these people on their own? Are they being influenced by the party? Is the party setting the agenda?
They are, because if the information is coming from a source, and the party is that source, they're the ones who gives the headlines, right? I looked at Miss Jess, Zulika Jess, the other day. the help that she was seeking, she went on TikTok, videoing and everything. In a crisis like this, you find time I do TikTok. People are marooned. You left Parliament where the information about the aid was given.
Performative representation.
Right? And she got the information that was needed, which was that aid would have been sent to her side, with the helicopters and so on. But she took to TikTok moments after, when she arrived back in Westmoreland, to act as if none of that happened. And that is what I'm saying in terms of they're the one putting it out there. They're the source. All they have to do is put up a camera and say something. And they're persons, because remember, they think party first. Everything is after. So they will have their, I like to call them minions, to just spread it little by little, one channel by one channel after another.
You're not suggesting, though, that what I am hearing coming from these social media influencers, that is PNP messaging. That's not what you're suggesting.
I am.
You are?
Yeah, and I'll bring it even further. If we look at, because again, I mentioned they know how to package it well. If we look at their campaigning, specifically in the region of St. Thomas, Portland area, and I'm pointing out those two areas, those two parties specifically, we are yet to know what was the message for the people there. You know what we saw? Artist after artist. We've got no real plans. Every one of the campaigning rallies that we saw, it was a stage show.
The mess we are hearing is that designed. It is by design, sir. It is not some irresponsible little people getting up to chat. And you saying to me that this is orchestrated?
Very much orchestrated, because I can tell you this, neighbor. There are two parties, two main parties, and one knows how to run a government, and that makes them bad at campaigning, at election work. The other knows very well how to campaign, and I like giving them credit for things that they do well, even if it's detrimental, because it shows that they have some level of ingenuity, right? Just that it is misplaced. And I hope they can put all that energy, effort, and thinking on the right path, so we can unify and get the country where it should. But I'll digress on that, because I don't expect them to do it, right? Because they're not designed to do it. And there's one thing, is either you can't do it, or you don't want to do it. And sadly, on their part, they don't want to do it. It's not that they can't. They have the capacity, because again, the clock is right twice per day. All right? Now, we see the design into, because we haven't gotten any real message. I'll ask anybody here and who is listening and challenge even those in the party. What was your message as an alternative government prior to Melissa? And what is your message post Melissa? What is the plan? What was the strategy that you had in place, or you have in mind? And the answer will always be the same, if you even get a straight answer, because they're very good at going around town, coming back and going around, and still say nothing. So they say a lot, but still say nothing, right? Because the substance is missing. But again, their packaging is very good. We'll give them that. They know how to appeal to the senses, to the emotions, and they're quick at doing it. And that is very dangerous to where we want to go as a nation. And I don't think people understand. Yes, it's catastrophic. It's a disaster. But this is an opportunity for us to get it right. We didn't get it right on two major occasions. We haven't gotten it right since independence. And we know it's a bad way to get this start. But looking in terms of being positive, it's a start nonetheless. It's a clean slate, a canvas. You see how the artists, when they're going to do their painting, it's a clean slate. You look at it and it's pure, white and nice. And you get to tell the story through the drawings. And in this case, we as the people get to design our future together, not divided. And this means in doing so, we have to reduce our level of ignorance to various topics. I know, especially with this younger generation, they say they don't like politics. But as long as you exist in a system, there is some level of politics that will have a massive impact on your day-to-day living, even on your decision making. So you have to find the impetus. Go after the real information. Don't leave it at surface level. If you hear something, if something is said, don't just take the one paragraph, because there has to be more to it. And if something is said again, and you hear an alternative view to it, you have to know, understand what was said from both sides. We have a power of discernment, right? And you pick sense out of nonsense. Because I'll never tell anybody to disregard a perspective, because you just might learn something from that perspective. But don't let it derail you, what I'm saying, neighbor. All right? Because you can always find something. You can, even in that, let's say somebody's talking total crap. That is your opportunity to correct it if you have the right information. And we have the saying, be your brother's keeper. There's no greater time than now to be your brother's keeper, to empower the mind the right way.
Yeah. So having said that, have you any idea of how other jurisdictions, other countries would have handled this whole challenge of misinformation? And what recommendations would you make to the government to deal with it?
Well, we have, in terms of, I know people don't like Korea, and they may take a more strong design to what they're doing, so much so that they may call it as suppressing the press or freedom of speech.
Yes.
They have done it, I'd say a very good model to look at. Of course, how our laws are written and policies is detailed, and it can be a good thing and a bad thing for us. It can be a good thing because it's hard to weave around. You can't change a word and it changes the entire meaning. That's the beauty of how our laws are written. But the problem is also, if it needs to be amended in the future, then it's a little tricky, right? But I'll bring it closer to home. One of the most loved but hated leader in the West, Bukele from El Salvador. His people loves him. He has the highest rating in the world for a leader, untouched in that rating. But the rest of the world looking out may not agree with how he goes about some things. But he gets the result without being inhumane, without being morally corrupt, and he's disciplined in how he goes about it. Now, while El Salvador may not have a direct law, What they did was go around in terms of surveying the media.
Yes.
And look in terms of how they can ensure the press gets the correct information and puts it out, even more importantly. And that is in regards to even the social media aspect. I know they're more limited on that, and we're more free, for a safer word. But the other night I also said we have to also limit some of our options in order to remove the noise. And I think legislatively, that's something we have to look into significantly. Whether that means you curtail the social media aspect of it. Maybe not to say you have to have a degree and be certified in it like Korea would, because that may just draw out the process. Because we know the opposition is very good at that, to delay things. All right, and because it's not a majority vote in Parliament for the administration, it makes it a little harder. And this is something we need to do because time is of the essence for it to have a real impact in changing how we go forward. So I look at it more in terms of the press medium, and if we can have some form of censorship with these new, I'd say, social medias, because the government can do that. There are some intricacies, all right? For many persons, if I'd like to say, the internet was created by an army. And if we can go back to the basic of data protection the right way, we can limit the exposure of misinformation, the attempt for it. And that would come in the sense of whether it may be fines, jail time. And I'd love for, if it's a combination, that we have some hard work, let them have to contribute back to society. Whether that means help clean up outside, but something, because I love the idea that has died, which is shame. I'm a big advocate for bringing back shame because it brings the moral compass to the forefront. And we have a low level of morality in the sense for this aspect. And I'll say what? Gone are the days when you used to be afraid to tell a simple lie because you know the repercussions, and it wasn't there's no law for it, but you knew morally it was wrong, and as such you operated within the boundaries of it. But that boundary is no longer there, and this in itself will bring back the moral compass and help change the mindset of it. No, it's not something that's going to be able to be done in a year, in 2 years. But if you can initiate it and it goes down, you continue, and it may continue with a 4th term by this administration, because I don't think it's something we should just let slide. In fact, I'll go even further. I strongly believe there are certain things where policies or works that are being done that should be protected legislatively. So for example, something like this, misinformation will affect every and any administration, whether it may be the current one or the one in the future, whichever it may be, right? And that is something I'd say ensure that no one administration can remove it or discontinue it to favor themselves. Because I'm seeing this as something that will protect the nation by protecting the cultural thinking of our people.
Ooh. Hold on, Harry. Scratchy? Scratch? He's on a break. Okay. Yeah, okay. it is an interesting discussion we're having here tonight about just the amount of things that are being said in Jamaica that is misleading. And my God, what are we going to do about it? Scratchy is saying that the government's hand may be tied. Harry is saying, listen, we have to probably look at models in other countries and come up with a formula. He's also saying that it probably is by design that we are seeing some of this and that the PNP may be behind that. Can that be true? I think it is fascinating. We have them still online. I don't know if there are any other callers who want to add to this conversation. Caroline, you could check that for me. We are pushing 17 after 9 o'clock now. We giving our listeners a little extra time tonight, so that we can explore this a little bit. Tyle? Hello, sir. Hello, Style?
No, they come up here within as soon as they finish what they do. They never come back. I don't think they must do anything.
Humble. None of them humble.
You want to leave the key at the front desk?
Yeah, man, you can leave it.
And then
all right. Okay. Not there. Top of the night to you. We're here with you. So many people in the line, so many people in the box, checking them out, eh? All right, Lenny, hi. Top of the night to you, sir. Good night to you. Michelle, good night. Poogie.
Neighbor.
Hello.
Neighbor.
Yes, sir.
You know that in China, neighbor, China recently bringing a law, neighbor, where for you to be an influencer in China, neighbor, the government is saying that you have to have a degree to talk on any certain areas that you want to talk on and be an influencer on.
Wow.
That's how they do it in China, neighbor. You can't just be an influencer on social media like that in China. Whatever topic you are talking on, you must be at a certain level in it to be able to talk about it.
Wow.
Yes,
So
Alex J.A., right.
You are agreeing with me, Scratchy, that we have to tighten up this here in Jamaica because a man just opened his microphone and him phones and spread all type of foolishness on the society, Scratchy. We can't go forward like this.
It is a threat to our national security, neighbor. And not just only a threat to our national security, neighbor, but a threat to the continuity of our government and our governance structure and our agencies as well, neighbor. And it is becoming unbearable at this time because, well, we have to admit it or not, neighbor. That persons are riding or are using, neighbor, the persons who are not much at a level where they can critically make decisions for themselves. And persons are riding those things, and it cannot be like that, neighbor, because we will see this misinformation over to our government at some point in time. Maybe not now, maybe not in our near future, but misinformation has the potential, neighbor, to cause all of those things. Government to get rebuttal from its citizen, persons to become this man and don't want to participate and listen to laws and regulation and stuff like that. Misinformation, but I think, neighbor, the government need to go in and have a dialogue with these social media handlers, these persons who control social media, go in and talk to them. And for me, neighbor, personally, I will go for our neighbor and tell the government need to ban social media for persons under a certain age, neighbor. Because if you look by right, neighbor, no person under 18 should be on TikTok and certain things, But these laws are not being enforced. And these laws should not be enforced by government, neighbor. These are simple parental guide that parents should take to understand that your 13-year-old child should never have a social media handler at this point in time. So there's a whole lot of things there, but I said neighbor, there's a lot of laws on the book that can be enforced. And I think the reason why the government don't enforce a lot of these laws neighbor is because of the political backlash and the possibility of government being overthrown and voted out neighbor because of these necessary steps that they might take. And it is just so sad neighbor to live in a country and the government cannot force the full length of the law neighbor in a specific situation because the government is afraid of whatever backlash it might get and whatever endorsement the opposition might use to gain from that. It's just shocking neighbor, it's shocking, totally shocking.
Shocking indeed. Peter Tosh said they have to get a beating, eh? Well, it's truth that must beat them. Truth must rise, eh?
They must get a beating, yeah. They must get a beating, that's it. And them can't get nowhere. I stand this
Can't stand it no longer. I can't stand it.
No longer, neighbor. And final point, neighbor, I would like to make, neighbor. This country that would like to make point, neighbor, Singapore. What was the name of the guy again who led that country?
Lee Kuan Yew.
Lee Kuan Yew, neighbor. We love to talk about Singapore and how Singapore is at this right now and how Singapore came and followed the model of Jamaica. Neighbor, for Lee Kuan Yew to gain and get with the success that he gained in Singapore, neighbor, he had to suppress the opposition, neighbor. He was seen as a dictator, neighbor. He had to send people to prison. It never was just in a normal democratic way that him get that changes in Singapore. There are certain necessary steps that would have to take in Jamaica if we want to reach, or we truly want to reach, neighbor. We have to be forceful if we ever reach there. Lee Kuan Yew didn't do it normal with a democracy, with a normal constitution, neighbor. He used force and he used him will and him power. And he was seen as a dictator.
Are you saying to me that democracy sometimes is antithetical to our progress, eh?
Neighbor, right? Of course, neighbor, I strongly believe that, neighbor, that sometimes the democratic process, neighbor, is the hindrance, neighbor, to a lot of social reforms that the country needs. Because of what democratic process tell you, say, you have your freedom to do that, and you have your right to do that, and not knowing that even though you have the rights, yes, rights come with responsibilities. The democratic process sometimes you can stress these things. I'm telling you.
Absolutely. I'm coming to you, son.
No, I want to point out what Scratchy they talked on earlier. That's why I'm jump up. The first set of school tablet them where the government they bring in under the Bro School and administration, right? Those tablets were encrypted with parental controls. And they had 3 students from 3 different schools. I don't know if I code in or what, but they managed to bypass all of the security that was in the devices to prevent them from going on certain websites. The same children we are talking about, we want to restrict from certain things. The 3 children were able to navigate through all of the security features that were instilled on those tablets.
I mean, 3 out of 45,000, I have no problem with that. I was second for 3 out of 45,000 any given day. I have no problem with that, Nancy.
All right, gotcha.
But you know, sir, I have seen on social media children no older than 12 years old, little girl coming on there showing their breasts and their little tights. That no right, sir. Shouldn't be allowed up.
And that is not, and that shouldn't be, and neighbor, this shouldn't be reformed from a government level. That is so basic parenting 101 skill, neighbor.
Yes.
That is parent 101 skills, neighbor. So a lot of the issues are also feeling from a parental level, neighbor. That is parenting. Neighbor, my child cannot depend on social media. You can't be 13, 12 dollars. And neighbor, it is also a security risk. Because some of these kids, neighbor, they don't understand. They go right in front of where they live, neighbor, right? You see them big address, 21 Railway Street, and take a picture and post it on social media. Then predators prey on them, and they don't know that it's you give away location. So it's a lot of risk, security risk, and a lot of things. They need to go back to it, neighbor. I'm telling you, parenting 101, that is where we're failing. Simple parenting, we're failing at. Cannot the government to tell us say your child must have a social media platform. You should know that.
So, quite happy.
I'm a little bit.
Do we have Kimmy there, Caroline? Or she's not there? We're not there, we move on, eh? Alright, before we come to KC Overcomer, Lauren. Alright, is that? Overcomer, how you doing? Overcomer, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good night. I'm not so bad. Good night to you, Miss Carolyn, and your listener.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, sir. Can't complain.
Don't call me sir.
Not too bad, neighbor.
Yes. I'm your boy, man. It's sir. No, it's sir. All right. Where you calling from?
I'm from Bahamas. I was on the line. Today is what, Friday? Wednesday night, I suppose.
Okay. Wow. What brought you back? Scratchy?
No, the thing is, it's the what they're doing is also affecting us that are in, the different countries. Because when they're spreading misinformation and when they're also being disorganized, mischievous and all of that, we that are in foreign countries are indeed going to suffer one way or another. Because once you go somewhere and person find out that you're a Jamaican, them say they put everybody in the one oil. Nobody's just trying to find out how you think and who you are as an individual. Them just say everybody are the same thing.
Yes, you mean that people who are in the diaspora also feel it, eh?
Yes, we feel it because when persons, you go about your business, you're in the food store, you're on the road, you're at your work, persons looking at it because you're a Jamaican and it's just so much nonsense happening back home right now. The misinformation, and persons just randomly taking up their phone and jumping on the bandwagon, not making sure that what they're putting out there is accurate.
You don't think that we as a society need to have a conversation about this, ma'am, that it is hurting us? That even if we can't legislate it, we have to build some social norms in the society to deal with this, ma'am?
Yes, I believe so, but the whole thing about it is that persons are so stuck in their own way, because you made mention of the ladies them in the market, and you could not convince them otherwise.
Yes, and when I say social norms, ma'am, I'm talking about some guidelines by which the society agrees. Could we come up with some guidelines, ma'am? We don't have to legislate everything, Just common decency. Don't put out information that cannot be verified. Free speech, that's not free speech, ma'am. Because, ma'am, if you hear some things that people say about me and about you, ma'am, and they're free to chat. But when it comes on to putting out information that affects people's decision, ma'am,
yes,
I think we have to take some precaution. We have to agree, ma'am, as a society, that this is hurting the country, and we have to agree on what is to be broadcast as public information and what is not to be broadcast. You can't have a Category 5 storm coming on an island, ma'am, and someone is out there telling people that no storm now come. Someone who is an influencer.
Yes, sir. Yes, that is true. But being a Jamaican and understanding my people, just saying things to them that they're not gonna listen. You have to probably enforce some laws. Because if you have a child in your house and you're telling them and you're trying to explain and you're trying to get them to understand that if you put it on the stove, it's gonna burn you. They're not listening until them touch the stove. So a lot of persons, if you even go about it in a civilized way, they're not going to take no heed. Because them are gonna say I for them phone at them I pay for them internet and all of that. You know, we Jamaicans say we're very rebellious. We are a rebellious people, and so finding a common ground is not going to be easy. And then, you know, all of this really started from when they were kids growing up where they did not have any structure in the homes. So that's why now they become adults and disobedient because them never have no rules and laws and regulation and boundaries. They did what they want to, they say what they want to, they go wherever they want, and then they come in society and put the same behavior out there. So the common ground, yes, we need that, but I'm not sure how we are going to get that because we are rebellious. Bad.
Minutes left on the program. Misinformation, the threat to the society, and especially in a society where there is high illiteracy. Casey?
Yes, neighbor.
Is the government powerless to combat this with legislation? Is that the way to go?
No, you know, the government is not exactly powerless. What happened is that there are laws that govern misinformation. You can be charged for public mischief. That's one of them, but those laws aren't enforced. People really get charged and convicted for those things. What I think the government need to do is make those laws strict, enforce those laws more, and we need greater punishment for those crimes, neighbor, because it's becoming more and more serious. And another thing, neighbor, political capital is very important. And because we have an opposition who will do anything for political capital, what they will do is when the government start to enforce these laws, they will take the opportunity to take the side of the culprits and paint a picture, spread a narrative as if the government is dictating to people or something like that, neighbor, to gain political capital. So you may lose political popularity for doing the right thing in a nation like this. It's very tedious, neighbor. It may sound simple, but it's not something that's easy to deal with. The most I think the government can do now is try to inform people more and try to get more people. Pay people like, hello neighbor, to stay online more and educate people. And yes, and open people's eyes as to how they are damaging their reputation and the country's reputation and other people's reputation and the repercussion it can have. Use up Jamaica Informative Service more. I spoke today about the Ministry of Information need to be a bigger ministry and need to be treated with more importance because they have a big role to play in things like this. Because remember, we can't depend on common decency and common knowledge because it's obvious that that is lacking across the length and breadth of the country. But we have to be careful in this democratic system how we enforce these laws and how we punish people, because we have people who will come at our throat politically. Remember, it's not the unintelligent that are fueling these rumors. It's the intellectually dishonest who have something to gain from it. Also remember that, neighbor. So there are ways, but it's very tedious.
Very, very tedious.
Well, Casey, other countries have done it properly, right? But I knew I had some information somewhere. So, neighbor, I did find because there was something I was looking into over the last few days.
Yes.
And the world's most, I'd say either they're the proudest or the second proudest country in the world. They've done it, and that's Germany, right? They went through something known as they had the Germany's Network Enforcement Act, which requires social media platforms to promptly remove manifestly unlawful, and I'm quoting it, content, right? With heavy fines for non-compliance. And they did this through what we call a co-regulation. And let me break it down. The co-regulation is really a model, right? With various parties, or I'd want to say institutions. That's the government, the industry, specifically tech companies, and the civil society, because you can't do something like this without those three, because all three are interdependent when it comes down to the protection of information. And in this case, we're speaking in terms of misinformation. They all depend on it, right? So we need all those stakeholders in order for this to work. And what you do know is you don't let the responsibility just be on the individual or just the government. You now let it be a corporate responsibility for the companies that also contribute to disruptive technology. Because in case we haven't realized, social media is really a disruptive technology to main media. And as such, we have to take that holistic approach to it. And this is one of the things why I said I love to look at countries who did it. Those who weren't successful, because we can learn something from it. And those who are successful with it, neighbor. All right?
Harry,
So,
not to cut here anything though, but I think in relation to what Casey said, I understand what you're saying, Harry. And despite, yeah, we see other countries install these laws and we see it work and stuff like that. I think that when time we do these laws, Harry, we have to try to think what might mean with the government look on is not just the fact that other countries might do it, but in the context of our Jamaican country, our culture, our political climate. Casey alluded to it earlier where Casey mentioned about the political mileage. You know, instead, when you bring in the government, decide now, so them are going to bring in a law like this, Harry. Not unlike Germany, we're going to get rebuttal from an organization with a political agenda like the Jamaican for Justice. We're going to say the Jamaica government are infringed on people's rights. We're going to get a rebuttal from civil society. We have an opposition party now to where 400,000 people vote for with opposition and now go in line with the government. They're going to come out and be rebuttal against it and energize and put a battery in for them 400,000 people back again. Yes. So, in that context, Harry, we understand we have to say yes, it works in other countries, but in our political climate and political context, it's hard, and it can also lead to the overthrowing a vote out of a government, and it can lead to a disadvantage to one government and an advantage to the opposition. And the opposition definitely going to use any chance to gain advantage against this government.
Yes.
Well, look at it in a scratchy. Give me a second, Casey. Look at it in a scratchy. I am holding it to say that we're bringing as much stakeholders to the table, those who have something to gain and to lose, right? Now, I have faith enough to say that the negativity in numbers is lesser than the positive reinforcements that we can get. The issue is we gravitate to the negativity and push it to the forefront.
Harry, the negativity in numbers. Explain that. Explain that part, please.
So it's like smoke and mirrors, all right? we push things up for an illusion. Because really and truly, neighbor, the negativity does not have the numbers we think it does. What it does is it's in the forefront.
But influence.
Just like
influence.
Right. Because, for example, look at our crime rate. And if we look at the actual number of those who causes crime, it's less than 1% of our populace. But it would seem as if our nation is filled with thousands upon thousands of criminals in that aspect. And it's not.
And that 1% cause the rest of us to cower in fears.
Yes. Because of the perception of it. So it seems bigger than it is. And with the right stakeholders at the table, we can know, and that's a misinformation as well in a neighbor, because it's not true. It's an illusion of what is. And with the right stakeholders at the table.
Hold up. I want to understand. What you say is the illusion.
The negativity of it. We think that there's more negative than positive, right? And that's not true. It's that it gets highlighted more. Controversy sells more based on the culture that we're pushing.
But isn't it what you argue? That the misinformation that is being spouted online is hurting the society. Is that not a fact?
Is that not a what, neighbor? You went out from my end.
A fact. Is that not true?
And I think you're breaking up from mine. I think it's my internet. Repeat for me one more time, neighbor.
Is it not a fact that the misinformation is hurting the country?
It is.
Right.
And it's hurting because we have not held the institutions and the mediums accountable enough to ensure that we can curtail how accessible misinformation is. So, for example, realize it's being drawn for social media. The government themselves can actually apply pressure to those companies, whether we believe it or not. And as such, pull them to the table.
What about the public opinion? What about the public opinion, Eric? Whatever decision the government has taken, the government taking consideration public opinion, public backlash, and all of those type of stuff. So what about the public
Yes,
opinion?
man, Scratchy. Then that is where, remember, I gave 3 entities, right? I gave the government, I gave the tech companies or the institutions, and civil society.
All right, let's be real.
Three
Let's be real and
stakeholders.
practical. Let's be real and practical. Based on where we are looking at where Jamaica is right now, do you see the government implementing this and getting the full backing of those 3 entities that you make mention of?
You lay the responsibility at each institution feet, Scratchy, and they have no choice but to conform with it.
Harry, they will fail the government deliberately. It's a different.
No, remember, Casey, also remember this,
Nation.
Casey, also, but look at it. I think you guys are not realizing the strength the administration has garnered. Remember, the entire world come to our aid. So we're saying, we're from my thing, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. It is almost like we're discrediting the global relationships that we have, which can also help us to apply the pressure.
The local community has no regard for that. We are more respected in the international community than in the civil society as a government.
Yes, Casey, but what I'm saying is we can also leverage our relationship with other global entities. Because remember, our people also gravitate to these global things. We're in a global economy, right? Everything kind of intertwined. So you can actually leverage those relationships to help change things, whether that is apply pressure from a bigger standpoint to that company, because understand this, we also have a lot of investors who want to ensure they protect their investment here, and anything that may help to destroy the economical fabric that can push us forward, they will come together as well.
I think you miss the main thing, Ari. It's not really say Ari about applying the pressure. The government have the ability, the skill to apply the pressure. No, based on the public opinion that weighs heavily on the government decision and the government choice in applying this pressure. And what I still ask Ari is, in where we at right now in Jamaica, do you see the government implementing this, getting the backing of the people and the backing of civil society? Say, yes, this is what we need going forward. I don't see it, Ari. I honestly don't. And I think that a decision like this can cost the government at the polls. Even though it is needed and I would support it,
but Scotty, are you saying it's not a risk worth taking for the future that we want to shape?
That is up to the government. That is up to the government. I know more how far that the government willing to go with taking that risk. That is up to the government. I don't think me alone as a single person can answer that question. That will be up to the government.
Man. We're just saying it.
It is a very important factor. But why I think it's not a risk worth taking, based on the political climate in this country right now, it is political suicide. Because I pay attention to the politics and because the society is so immature, the government after some time use an alliances to get results, and the government is being targeted and being marked by the opposition and their supporter as being dictator and sections in civil society as well. And it's like playing into their hands politically. And we're a very immature nation. And there are a lot of people who think like me, you, and Scratchy, who would agree with you, but guess what? 90% of the people who think like us don't go to the polls when election comes around. You see the people spreading the misinformation and don't know how to pronounce 3 words. They are first to the poll every election. So it will be political suicide in this Jamaica right now.
So all right. So Casey, will you say that, or would you agree that other country influence our people?
Yes, to a point.
To a certain extent.
Listen,
all right. And hold on. What I'm getting to, is trying to see how far the administration can garner strength and help from overall. Because if other countries have a high influence on us, for example the US, because we are pretty much that close to them, even in culture, right? Would it not be something that we can look into and take inspiration from that to help the people that we want to change their mindset?
All right.
Influence, one of the KC. The influence that Jamaica take from these countries are not inclined with government priorities and with government stand for. Whether we want to be honest or be real, the influence that we take from these countries are more negative than positive. That we want to admit it or Nah, it's either we take influences to a certain genre of music, we take influence to a certain fashion and certain style of
As I said before, as I said before, it's something to be looked at, and a step have to be taken
take
forward.
influence to a certain
But it
extent.
is very tedious.
We
Because
we're losing Scratchy.
go ahead, Neighbour.
No, we're losing Scratchy. If I'm hearing you guys correctly, Harry, you are saying that there are models in the world that we could look at that would guide us in terms of how we are curtailing misinformation on social media. What I hear the guys saying is that the politics of it may be such that it would be risky for the government to do it. Is that what they're saying?
Well, Scratchy
Yeah.
is saying it is risky. I'm saying based on this political climate, it's political suicide.
That if the government steps into to restrict misinformation on social media, it's political suicide.
Yes, especially the way Harry is suggesting, which Harry Enriquez is right. You need all the stakeholders, you need civil society to play a part, you need the opposition to play a part, but those people will flip-flop to destroy this government. They cannot be trusted. They serve an agenda, not the people. And that's why even this recovery from a disaster is so difficult. It's not that the government don't want the help of the opposition. They cannot trust them. And it's the harsh truth. And I know would sound like somebody who don't really know what's going on politically behind behind the face, behind the facade, that I will sound like I'm political and I'm just thinking about politics, but that's my work. And I know the political space, and it's suicide. It's handing gun to the opposition and the civil society without wearing any bulletproof.
Oh, okay. My goodness. All right. Hold on. 954-701. That's 954-701-5958. All right. So we're not sponsored our courtesy of Cardinal Logistics and Sales, eh? All right. Consolidation. They custom clearance. They ship your barrels and your boxes and anything out of Florida. They ship it to Jamaica. Oh. You don't have to hassle, man. Come on. Oh, yeah. Let's go back to the discussion and see if we can bring some more clarity to this. The society is suffering from misinformation. It is particularly concerning based on the fact that the illiteracy in the country remains relatively high. In the markets, at the barber salon, people are talking about man-made hurricane. Some people are also saying that it's Holness and the hurricane. Others are talking about cloud seeding. A lot of misinformation out there, hurting even the recovery effort. What can be done about it? KC is saying government better leave this alone. It's political suicide. Leave the people and let's see if we can do persuasion. Scratchy is saying the government's hands are tied. There's no legislation on the books to deal with that. Harry, well, he's saying that we have to find a way around that. And he has cited that there are some examples in the world that we can look at. Harry, let's begin with you this segment. What is your position? State it again for us.
I'm looking at Neighbour areas that we can draw the inspiration from, right? And find the applicability based on the structure of our laws and where we are politically, right? Because I don't believe in totally reinventing the wheel. If or starting from total scratch, if you have something can pull on, right? Because that would also be wasting time and resources. So it's a little safer to look at the applicability. I mean, we've seen how the rest of the world has developed by taking each other's model that works. Case in point, Singapore did it with our model, and they're a beautiful nation right now. So I'm springing from that aspect of it. And as such, I will never write off the good people of this nation to back the great things that need to be done. Because if it even means we may have to revisit the freedom of speech law, similarly to what we did with the anti-gang law that was passed in 2014. It was amended in 2021. So again, we can pull from how, and that is us doing it. So it's similar, we can now look at it from that standpoint to see how we can broaden the spectrum to involve new disruptive technology ways that helps spread the misinformation, whether it was designed for that or not, but the usage. And for me, that will also require for us to lay the responsibility, strong responsibility, at these platforms' feet, because they even have a better way of managing the data, right? And it simply means that they can nip it in the bud faster than the government can hold a press conference and give the right information. So the co-regulation of it, we can look at it. And I strongly believe we did it in a different way before. I think we can do it again.
Scratch?
Yes, neighbor.
Scratch, it is not the personal innuendos that you hear. It is the misinformation that concerns me. Are you saying that as a society, we are to live with it? The government is not renting generators, Scratchy. Why should that be placed in the public's domain? That's not true.
Neighbor, I'm not saying that we should live with it, neighbor. I'm not saying that, neighbor, but when you look at the broader aspect, neighbor, and social media, neighbor, media houses in Jamaica, neighbor, are guided by the Broadcasting Commission and whatever laws and responsibility that there is in Jamaica to guide these media houses, neighbor. Unlike social media, neighbor, there isn't any broaded constitution or laws in Jamaica that govern how social media is operated in Jamaica, neighbor.
But Scratchy, come on. There are 259 people that have logged onto this show. There are probably another 300 on the For You page. Since we started at 7 o'clock, more than 4,000 people have watched the live, Scratchy. That is a lot of people that we could be misinforming.
That's what I'm saying, neighbor. As it currently stands, neighbor, there isn't any broad laws that govern it. And I think, neighbor, that with the rise, because based on how social media has rise, neighbor, social media has basically rise to a level, neighbor, where it have basically government have got, not just only in Jamaica, neighbor, but worldwide. We see where governments are now grappling with laws to come and try to catch up with social media. But as it states, neighbor, I think that the government there's stuff that can be done, neighbor. But as it currently states, neighbor, there isn't much that the government can do from a legal standpoint as it currently is. But I think the government can do stuff, neighbor. There's stuff that can be done. It can definitely be done, neighbor, and phased in and guided in. But as it currently stands, neighbor, and I'm going by as it currently stands, neighbor, There's nothing that government can do right now at this time. There's no broad laws in Jamaica that govern how social media is operated in Jamaica. And I think the government, neighbor, the time has come for the government to call these social media personnel to the table, neighbor, dialogue with them, neighbor. Let them put some form of control in how information are spewed on their platform in Jamaica. Let them know the consequences that it has on our people and our country by extension, neighbor. And we have to understand, neighbor, the social media, they're very powerful. They have a certain influence in the neighbor. Case in point in the neighbor in America is one candidate came out, neighbor, and back a specific platform, neighbor. And his backing of that platform basically helped propel his victory. So this is to show you how the influence that a lot of these platforms have, neighbor. So I think the government should and must come in contact with these persons, neighbor, have some form of dialogue with them and let them do some form of restraining from their hand and from their level. If the government doesn't want to come constitutional, I might be coming conflict with other constitutional laws.
The Grammy nominations are out.
Yes. But I definitely think, though, neighbor, that these heads of these social media network need to be called to the table, neighbor. Some dialogue is needed.
All right, Scotty.
Yeah, Casey.
Another a point on that social media thing. Harry Enriquez was mentioning something about the numbers and the influence. All right. How many social media influencers is the government going to meet with? Yes, you meet with the social media influencers.
No, I'm not asking for the government to meet with the influencers in a Casey. I'm talking
with the actual institution, Casey.
They have Instagram. Those are the persons me I said government need to come and meet with. Not the influencers.
That can be done. Okay.
Yeah, not the influencers.
Okay, that's clarified. My response
because that's what I was saying, Casey.
Yes, I get that. My response to you now, Ari, and the other matter. You see that German model that you use as example. It's a perfect example. That's the way to go. But in our society, all right, let me give you a context. For instance, Clarendon Parish Council from 1993 it was to 2002, it was run by the People's National Party. From 1993, I said, to 2002, because Jamaica Labour Party won in 2003. So it was run by the People's National Party for 10 consecutive years. And then the Jamaica Labour Party ran it from 2003 until 2012. The workers basically remained the same because PNP employed the workers in 1993, lost the parish council 2003, and the body of workers remained there from 2003 to 2007 and from 2007 to 2012. And some more people were employed, a bit more because they were refreshed. When the People's National Party won in 2012, they changed 70% of the workers in that parish council. And then the Jamaica Labour Party would have won back that parish council 2016. And the workers that the PNP placed there are still there up until now. Reason being, the People's National Party, whenever they're in power, they look for people to strategically employ in places for political reasons. And that's why they had what was called the Pickersgill Committee in the 90s, where PNP activists, undercover activists, works in all these civil society groups. And what the People's National Party can do and get away with, the Jamaica Labour Party cannot. And that's why politically it is suicide. You can't trust Jamaicans for justice. First things, the first election when you see them come out with narrow victories. Just check the narrative that's where being pushed. And the biggest narrative that is being pushed is that and Jamaica Holness and the JLP is running a dictatorship. So that particular problem, they have to be careful how they touch. That part, gang law is a whole different thing. Okay, you are trying to suppress the gang and you're trying to silence the gangsters. No. But even though people are spreading this information, when the opposition see a opportunity to gain political capital by saying, okay, people cannot talk in Jamaica anymore, this is a dictatorship. Civil society jump on that wagon and back them tomorrow, and then every week until the election, the Glean have a headline, Andrew Holness is dictating to the Jamaican people. People cannot post what they want and say what they want. And these people are hubristic. You and I know that they are spewing misinformation, but they don't think so, you know. I mean the one that are picking up the hoax and spreading it. They don't think so. You can't tell Mama San and Caution and others say them are intelligent.
Oh, hold on, Casey. Foresight.
Night, Neighbour.
Welcome, brother. How you doing? Foresight. I don't know if you have been listening in. Misinformation threatening the nation, especially where there is high literacy. Is there a threat to democracy? What is your view on this, Foresight?
Well, Neighbour, I think I share the same view as Scratchy and Casey. I don't think the issue is to get it done, right? I think the real issue would be to how it would be viewed by the public, right? Because there's a large segment of the society, Neighbour, that is ready or that is searching for reasons, you know, to support an argument that the government is a dictator. And we have to be careful that when we make decisions like these, it's not viewed by the public as the government trying to censor people, right? I think that's where the risk is.
Yes, but whatever you say, Foresight, here we are now in the middle of a hurricane relief, recovery, reconstruction, and the amount of falls wood on the ground, isn't that inhibiting the recovery itself? Isn't that dangerous?
But here how it work now. Here would have to work now. It will have to come as a response, right, to a public outcry against misinformation. Then the government could act as a response to what the public is already uncomfortable with, right? The government may be able to get away with it that way. But if it comes across to the public as the government, if it's viewed by the public as if the government is trying to restrict freedom of speech, then it could be political suicide for the government.
So a Cat 5 hurricane, Foresight, is bearing down on the nation, and you have somebody telling, oh no, hurricane is coming, and that person is an influencer, and the government can't do nothing about it.
It's not that they can't, you know. As I say, it's just how you handle it. It's how you handle, you know, the way
they can't.
Right? Neighbour, it's a very touchy situation. Because, as I said, there's a large segment of society that is ready to say, oh, the government is a dictator, right? And it will confirm to some persons that the government is trying to restrict freedom of speech, you know? You can't allow it to come across like that. What could happen, as I said, if there's something, some harm, right, that occur as a result of misinformation that annoys and is very disturbing to the public, and the public say, as a result of misinformation, this person suffered harm. If there's a public outcry and the government responds to it and says, no, we have to do something about misinformation, because the public is now very much aware of something that caused some harm to some individual as a result of that, then the government could get away with it. But otherwise, Neighbour, trust me, it's going to be touchy. Because already they are trying to say Andrew is a dictator. Already they are trying to say this government is a dictator, Neighbour. And you don't want to do anything that might confirm that belief, you know, or strengthen that belief.
On foresight, if even one person who suffer any form of suffering in this hurricane ever should go and make a complaint to a police station or whoever, a fire authority, and say, I suffer whatever I suffer because I listened to the information that was coming from this person who said the hurricane wasn't coming, then no neighbor, the laws
Grammy
can be enforced.
nominations are out today.
Go ahead. Sorry.
You hearing me, neighbor?
Yes, man. Go ahead.
Yes, neighbor. I was saying that if even one person should make a complaint, neighbor, or something to the police, or make a report and say that I suffer losses and suffering in the hurricane because of what was said by this person while listening on this platform who said that the hurricane was coming, then no, it's a different ball game, neighbor. Then the government can make necessary steps from there, that from that angle, neighbor. It's all about proving, neighbor, that whatever the person said caused public mischief, it caused suffering, and it causes strain on whatever organization or agency or entity of the government. That is what it has to, that is what the law currently say, neighbor. And the law currently say again, neighbor, that if the opinion is of scientifically is a scientific opinion, or if it's a political opinion, neighbor, the person cannot be charged.
Okay. Well,
another thing, Ari Enriquez, as far as liaison with the actual institution, the regular social media platform, our official language is English. And sometimes if you should type some things, TikTok will warn you that you cannot say those things. But if you should intentionally misspell it, but people will understand it anyway because it's spelled with a K and you use a C, it will be allowed to go. So in our space, a lot of people use patois. When they spread misinformation by the Jamaican tongue, patois, will the social media pick it up and block it? How will that work?
Well, put it this way. Put it this way, Casey. With the evolution of artificial intelligence, how it's being used the real way, not talking the little grammarly kind of thing, no, the real way, because we've only barely scratched the surface of how well it is being integrated at a higher level, right? Because of course you're now partnering with these institutions as well, you know. And I want to draw on China. They have done that extremely well, because using TikTok, the TikTok that we see, China does not, because it is sieved exceptionally well. Now, while we may not have the full-on manpower, no, but Scratchy, no man. What I'm saying, you know, we're looking at ways in which they've done it.
No, but
right?
Ari, but put in context here.
But what he's explaining, he's explaining to me the ability of artificial intelligence to pick up whatever you're saying in any language.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
if we should be using if we should be using the patois to spew misinformation in Jamaica, if the government have a deal with the social media platform, if they will be able to cut you off. And that's what he's explaining to me.
No, but what else?
And even on top of that, in a case, even if, let's say, because you will have, we're very smart at bypassing some things, but we also want to ensure that there's repercussions to it. Meaning, that platform can remove you permanently from it, right? So these are some of the things we can look at in that aspect, which is why I said it's a co-regulation of it where we need those entities at the table, because it can be done. No, it's not going to be something you're going to do one way, because it's going to be phased in, and also you have to always revisit it, because again, social media is a disruptive technology and it's evolving every time.
Yeah.
But Ari,
Hold on for me, guys. Hold on for me. Well, Foresight has joined us at 23 minutes, 27 after 10. 27 minutes after 10 o'clock. And just have to remind you that we have some great friends which is working with us tonight. Cardinal Logistics and Sales. They are between 10 and 11 o'clock. Cardinal Logistics and Sales, they're in Florida. And of course, they'll ship your barrels, your boxes, and everything else you want to ship to Jamaica. Boy, they take the hassle from you, man. They pick up your barrel, ship it to Jamaica straight to your address. Consolidation, warehousing, air and sea freight, custom clearance, fast, reliable shipping solutions from Florida to Jamaica. Are you in Florida? Are you in Florida? You need to ship something down quickly? Then call this number 954-701-5958. 954-701-5958 or 954-533-3637. That's 954-533-3637. Cardinal Logistics and Sales, 954-701-5958. They ship from Florida to Jamaica, door-to-door delivered in Jamaica. My goodness, pack a barrel and send to me, no man. Use Cardinal and ship it to me, all right? Please. That's a fantastic service that has been offered by Cardinal. Cardinal Logistic. All right, let's bounce a little at this Frankie Paul and get back to our callers. A little bit of Frankie Paul on your Friday night at 10:30. Thank you very much, Cardinal Logistics and Sales. Doing this possible for Politics Plus tonight, all right? Begging you to come on home and stay with me. I'll be on 954-701-5958. Tell them you heard it on Politics Plus with your neighbor. I want you to stay. Tell them that you heard it on Neighbor, you get a discount, all right? Tell them that. I'm leaving on that midnight train tomorrow. Misinformation in Jamaica. The callers are saying, boy, it seems like we're going to have it for some time. But let me ask you this, Foresight.
Come on, I'm listening, Neighbor.
Based on what you guys are saying, is it possible that this is being exploited for political benefits? Because you can't really lock up anyone. You can't really do anything much about it. So why not keep pushing the agenda and exploit it? Why not?
That's exactly what is happening, Neighbor. Because some of the people know better than what you're saying. So sometimes the intention is to mislead and to distract and to paint a bad picture for political expediency.
Yes. May I ask you, Foresight, do you think that we are overselling this? We are overemphasizing the risk, the dangers, and maybe what the government should respond by doing is just keep putting out the correct information, keeping their press conference, make sure that the people have correct information. Because I hear Harry saying also that the misinformationers are in the minority.
Yes, but the audience, Neighbor, it's amplified by an audience, different kind of audience that they interact more with each other. And I think in those circles and at the level at which it is being propagated, it's not challenged, right? Effectively. Now, of course, I think the government should do more to respond, but I think what the government is looking at, you can't really respond to everything, because sometimes when you respond to misinformation, you make it becomes a public topic and it becomes more widespread. But to not respond to anything at all is still risky. And I think that is the problem that we're having now is slowness, is a slowness in responding to these things. We allow it to linger in the public for too long till it takes root in the public. And sometimes it becomes unaddressed and it put pressure on the vloggers like you, Neighbour, and other vloggers to address these issues. But the government itself doesn't really have an effective response to misinformation. I think they need to look at it like that.
I have a question for you, Neighbour.
Yes.
And the rest of the panel. Who benefits more from social media being in Jamaica? The government, the citizens, or the social media platforms themselves?
Go ahead.
Social media platforms.
Now I'm saying, who benefit more from social media being in Jamaica? The country itself or the social media platforms?
It depends. The platforms maybe benefit more, depending on the content.
I don't think the platform benefit more.
Well, Scratchy, look at it this way.
I think social
right?
media, take for example, Neighbour, TikTok being in Jamaica. Does the organization of TikTok benefit more of TikTok being in Jamaica than the citizens in Jamaica benefit more from TikTok being in Jamaica? I think the citizens benefit more.
I think when you use the word benefit, Scratchy, it's going to depend on the content, because the content is negative, right? And the platforms are being used to spread misinformation. Then that's not a benefit to the public any at all. That might be a benefit to the platform for getting more views, right?
Yeah, but the only use of the platform is not to spread misinformation. Other persons use the platform to also advertise their business and do a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I know.
So the benefit of the platform is not only misinformation. So the benefit cannot be looked at only the spreading of misinformation alone.
No, what I'm saying, it depends on the content.
Yeah.
Because when you look at some of these vloggers, Scratch, and the content that they put out to get a lot of views. And those platforms, you'd say the platform owner benefits more. But the public, what they use the platform to do, right, is have no benefit to the public.
Yeah. Kimmy, good night. Hello. Hello, Kimmy. Kimmy? No. We don't have Kimmy. Scratchy.
Yes, Neighbour.
Early last year, Scratchy, as the government lost the local government election, within the social media space, Scratchy, the government was being hammered to the point where polls were showing them almost losing the election. Don't you think that social media influence, Scratchy, can cost a government its place in power?
Definitely, but the strong influence that social media have on the citizens worldwide, but it can definitely cost a government its power.
Then if you have such an influence on social media, why is the government not sitting down to look at how to put some structure here? If not by regulation, then by norms.
Because on the flip side, Neighbour, it also has the power, Neighbour, to put a government, to keep a government in power as well, Neighbour.
So aren't they using it?
Huh?
Are they using it effectively then?
Definitely, Neighbour, they are using it, Neighbour. The government came out victorious in the last 3 elections, Neighbour. Social media was a main driving force behind that. So I think the government will definitely have some agreement in saying that yes, social media has helped to propel them and help their advantage in some way, shape, or form. Even with the knowledge of knowing that it can also cost them the election with misinformation. So it's a flip, it's a two kind neighbor. We have to look at it both ways. The good that it brings and the bad that it brings.
Scratchy. But you think it's the government that was like you? I think what neighbor probably asking is if the government, why is the government not making a deliberate effort to use it? Because they benefit from it, but are they the ones that used it? Because most of who speaks on behalf of the government or speaks for the government on social media is persons who volunteer to do so freely.
Yeah, but if the government now benefit, the government is benefiting directly or indirectly. With last election campaign now, we see member of parliament a come on live talk with common people. We never see that before in the history of Jamaica. The last election campaign, we see even press conference or stream, pan TikTok and use social media platforms more than ever. We never see that. So we have to give and take foresight. We have to give and take. Of course, government use it. The effectiveness of it won't be known until government wins or lose an election and them use like any form of data to go see where was it advantage or not. And winning 3 consecutive election, neighbor, which is unprecedented for a government like the Jamaica Labour Party, neighbor. I think the government will have to definitely share some of its advantage towards social media, whether directly or indirectly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hold on. I have to thank my friend from Cardinal.
When I see you,
Cardinal, thank you so much for sponsoring 10 to 11 o'clock. Cardinal Logistics. In this time of crisis, you need a partner by your side, and Cardinal does. They provide that. Cardinal Logistics and Sales. 954-701-5958. They ship from Florida. Door-to-door delivery in Jamaica. Can you send me a barrel, someone, please? Just call Cardinal at 954-701-5958. Pack a barrel and send it down, man. Come on. Cardinal Logistics and Sales. All right. They're in Florida and they're helping out, okay? All right. What a beautiful company. Get that thing on a plane and send it down to you quick. Call Cardinal tonight, all right? Call them. 954-701-5958. Fast, reliable shipping, you call Cardinal, okay? Cardinal Logistics and Sales. You can't find anyone in Florida to do it better. Scratchy, let's leave this now and turn our attention to the recovery effort so far that is happening. Foresight, you're a young man, just born the other day. Nothing like this in your lifetime, Foresight. How do you think the country is responding? And I don't want you to speak to the government. I want you to speak to Jamaica, because this is not only about how the government is responding. How do you think Jamaica has responded so far to this crisis, Foresight?
Swiftly, neighbor, we have seen support from, different segments of society. We have seen the spirit of unity, people taking it on to themselves to help out and assist, And I don't really have much complaints. I think they are getting, a lot of assistance. I'm pretty much impressed.
Okay. One of the arguments that is emerging out of this is how the international press is covering this story, Foresight. CNN, Fox Weather, the international news is covering a side of the catastrophe that is negative. Now, people will argue that it is news and they ought to highlight it. Do you think the time has come for the international press to leave this now to us?
I would rather them not come in the first place, because the whole intention, it's what it can do for them, not necessarily what it can do for us, you know. It is negative. They thrive on highlighting negative things, especially in black-led countries. It is not. It is nothing new, you know. Unless it's a documentary or advertisement, then you don't really see any positive images, you know, when it comes down to issues like these coming out of the country. They thrive on that, neighbor. And sometimes
Here again, Scratch, Foresight. Should the government not have in place can it happen? Can the government put in place a protocol of coverage of its disasters, or it's just a free press? You come in and you show the worst things happening to the international community, and you barely show the help that the people are getting and the aid. It's always about these people are suffering, these people are struggling. What is it doing for Jamaica?
Well, there's both positive and negative from that, neighbor. It will make some people move swiftly to get help, like people in the diaspora, but at the same time, you know, it gives the impression that the government is not doing anything to help, or there's no help, you know. So I would say it's twofold, neighbor. I mean, but what I don't like about it, it's that it shows us as being helpless, you know, as if they are just helpless, as if they are just victims here. That's, you know, I mean, helpless. Nothing is happening. And it gives that impression. It helps to perpetuate the view that the government is just, you know, slow in responding, not responding, and that's not a good look for our country overall.
There are some people, Foresight, who feel that this ought to be an all-of-government approach to include the opposition. In other words, Holness should be taking Golden along with him on these visits, and the opposition should be prepared to, you know, lay aside the partisanship and just work with the government on this. Is that likely to happen even at this late stage? Do you think that that is likely to happen? And what is your view on the opposition's posture so far and leadership that they are provided?
It's no different from what it was leading up to the election, neighbor. I don't see no willingness from the opposition to work with the government. I don't have any confidence that he will. I don't have any confidence that anything will change, neighbor, to tell you the truth. I think they are more looking at, you know, they're more trying to get, gain political points from this. The issue has been politicized. The narrative that they are going to try to push is that the government is not handling the situation well, because if Andrew Holness should come out smelling like a rose out of this, I think it will just, you know, further push the electoral success out of the reach of the PNP.
The electoral success of Holness, you think, depends largely on his performance here?
Yes, neighbor. And the opposition is not going to assist that.
You're a man, you know, Foresight, that speaks a lot about common people, the common man, and also how government is to support the common man. At this point, Foresight, there are many common people in Jamaica that are struggling. You know, one thing that hit me this morning was that there are literally thousands of higglers, people who buy produce to sell in the market, that are out of a job. Foresight, the misery index may rise, inflation may rise, cost of living in Jamaica may rise, poverty may rise. We cannot avoid price increases. We cannot avoid a bill for the reconstruction. There may even be some programs of government that will have to be delayed or probably denied or pushed back. To what extent people are going to blame, you think, the government for this foresight?
Well, that depends on, how the government responds to it. Now, if the misery index continue to rise, neighbor, and people are not getting assistance that they think they need, as fast as they think they need it, they are going to turn on the government. That's just the reality.
And when you say getting it as they need, I've lost my roof. Who is to put it back on?
Wow. It's not about who is to put it on back, it's the perception, right? If people expect that they should get more help from the government and that help is not forthcoming, and then they have an opposition putting battery in their backs to say, look here, the government, we would have handled it better. The government need to step up and help you more. Because those people sometimes, right? They are led to think negatively or positively about the government.
But don't we have to speak some truth here about responsibilities, Cratchy, Foresight? Where does government support stops and the responsibility of the citizen kicks in? Because I suspect you can't just sit down and wait for the government to come do it, Foresight. Who's responsible?
Neighbor, when people are in pain, it's easier to sell them empathy and sympathy, right? So when the opposition, yes. So when people are in pain, they need assistance. They're more receptive to, assistance from the government. And if that's not forthcoming, and you have an opposition telling them that the government should do more, and this is what we would have done, and you must care more about the people, what you think they will be more, which message you think they will be more receptive to, right? The words of sympathy, or the government telling them that they have to be more, they have to be responsible for fixing their own problems? They are going to be more receptive to, that sympathy.
Finally, Foresight, in another couple of weeks, the aid will stop flowing. The people who came here to help us will go back to their homes, and we will be left with this task. Foresight, don't you think we have to have a honest conversation about what it is that we are going to do, how we are going to go about this reconstruction? Because what does it make sense putting back some board structures in place, Foresight? We may get another hurricane next year. Don't we have to strategically look at everything here and be very truthful with people to let them know some of you can't live back on those gully banks. Some of you can't live back on these paths of rivers. Some of you cannot go back into these structures that have been blown down, that cost lives and property. Don't we have to start having some hard conversations? Because when you're going to relocate people Foresight, that's not going to be pretty. But if it is what needs to be done, it will have to be done, Foresight.
Yes, neighbor. Again, the political atmosphere is going to make that difficult, because when the government is saying to them that you're going to have to relocate,
Complete your thought, please.
Yes, when the government is saying that they are going to have to relocate because it is risky to live the way that you have been living before, then you need a bipartisan kind of approach to that to reinforce that message. The issue is most times you don't get that kind of support. You have the government saying one thing, but the opposition is going to tell them something else, And that's where we have a problem in Jamaica, because it comes on to the political divisive that, when the government might be saying one thing that is good for the country, the opposition is opposing it. And it poses a problem and it poses confusion to the people.
Politics is going to hold back the recovery. Is that what he's saying? Cardinal Logistics and Sales. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, Harry.
Here, Neighbour.
Okay, as we go tonight, position Jamaica for me, Harry, in terms of where we are now, and where do you see the country as it recovers itself? Do you think that we can do this swiftly and get back to growing the economy, replacing our jobs, opening back our tourism sector? Place the country in a perspective for me, Harry. Take 2 minutes.
It has to be one in which we do it sector by sector. All right. Specifically, the most critical areas. We know tourism is 40% of technical or GDP and so on. And we have to look at how we can get back our footing, some form of footing there, which also intertwines with getting back our people some level of jobs. Approximately 100 to 200,000 people being employed again, while we recover within the agricultural sector, right? So I believe for us, we have to do it that way. Just like when you're down, flat-footed, you lift one leg, then the next. You take one step, then the other. So we have to do it in segments going forward. And I don't see us getting back to 2024 levels in the next 3 years, maybe 4, because it's a serious hit that we've gotten. And I'm looking at least 3 years to really get it right, because we can't get it right every time on the first try. But I have all faith in our people, firstly, in the administration, that we can do it together. But it will take sacrifice, commitment, dedication to put Jamaica back where it was heading.
Well said, sir. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.
Everyone.
Scratchy? As you sign off tonight, Scratchy, you are a very big supporter of the Jamaica Labour Party. I am sure, Scratchy, that somehow the party must feel as if, my God, look at us again. Country is growing, Scratchy. Funds are flowing in. Tourism is booming. Sparks program. Government is spending money left, right, and center. And one bam, the government's projections are thrown out of whack. You are facing a nation that 40% of it is cut off. Crisis in several sectors, Scratchy. 600 schools affected, hospitals, airports. Scratchy, the party in the past would have risen to other crises. And now this one, all eyes are on you, Scratchy. How is the party supporting the government at this time? The party I'm talking about.
I mean, neighbor, with all that you just said, neighbor, the same members of government are the same persons who hold high ranking position in the party as well, neighbor. And I think from a party standpoint, neighbor, going into this, neighbor, I think based on the severity of this damage, neighbor, and the level of the damage, neighbor, I think to a certain extent, the party will try to be more, take a more silent approach in this, neighbor, and not try to overshadow government or try to compete with government, because a lot of what needs to be done right now, neighbor, is from a government level. So I see that is where we see most of the leadership coming from. I think that is where the resources are, and that is where most of the help that is needed can definitely come from. Otherwise, from a party level, neighbor, a party just have to keep strong, same way, continue to push from a party level. And that's the neighbor is the same members who are high position in the government who are position in the party. So they understand and they know what they're doing, neighbor, and they know how to differentiate, neighbor, unlike our opposition who can't. So from a government level, neighbor, I think things are going well. I definitely expect things to get better, neighbor, as we go forward. I know persons are not comfortable down there in that in the island, neighbor, that is suffering from the disaster, neighbor. We talk about the media, neighbor. I know a lot of persons are concerned. I see it, neighbor, I'm overseas. I see these things that are coming online. I know the impact that it have, and I also know the negative thoughts that come from it from persons who are seeing it. You know, as Foresight alluded to, neighbor, make the government look like the government is not on top of things. But persons who are down there on the ground, we understand and who have understanding, we know what is going on. And I understand to a certain level, neighbor, I know that these things are born out of a crisis, neighbor. So to a certain level, neighbor, I'm not really say, as I often said before, neighbor, I'm not one who is concerned about how we're looking this time, neighbor. I'm more concerned about how people feel, neighbor. So that is my main situation. And as I alluded to, neighbor, about going forward, neighbor, sector by sector, yes, I definitely believe it has to take that approach, neighbor, but we have to ride and whistle. It cannot be one at a time. The tourism sector, neighbor, is a sector that has the opportunity, the ability, and the financial backing to rise on its own without much government support, neighbor. The agriculture sector is not that strong, neighbor. So more government resources and government strength will be needed in the revitalization of the agriculture sector. Is it an important sector? A very, very important one, neighbor. And one that I think government is on top of, and government need to make sure that it is up to the par coming next year and our highest level going forward, neighbor. But I think the tourism sector have the opportunity, the ability, and the financial backing to rise on their own footing without much government support. But agriculture will definitely need as much government support as possible, neighbor. I'm pleased, neighbor, with what's going forward, neighbor. I just hope that the persons who understand, who live in these areas, understand what is going on. And to a certain extent, neighbor, as I often said before, I'm comfortable, neighbor. I'm not sensing that level of rebel from the persons down there in these affected areas, neighbor. I'm not sensing that sense of anxiety to a level where they want to create any form of riot, you know. I expect that, neighbor, you talk about the international media and to what extent can the government kind of bar them, neighbor. The only tool I think the government have left in the apparatus to use in a situation like this, neighbor, to kind of limit movement of persons and media personnel is a state of emergency. And in a case like this, neighbor, the Prime Minister has not activated a state of emergency. I don't think it would be wise to activate one neither, neighbor, because based on what we're seeing, it doesn't warrant that at this time there isn't any form of riot. The security forces still have control over the area, even though it's a disaster area. So I'm pleased to certain levels, neighbor, when it comes to a humanitarian level, neighbor. I'm okay and I'm fine. I understand the person's growth down there. And as I said, neighbor, going forward, things will definitely get better as the government get a firmer grip and a better understanding of the situation on the ground. Communities are still marooned, and due to certain reasons, persons might get aid at certain level. But we just ask persons, neighbor, that who have excess amount to just continue to share and just make the progress much more easier. Earlier in the program, neighbor, you talk about Jamaicans' response. I applaud Jamaicans, neighbor. I love the response from every single sector of Jamaica, neighbor. Whether it's corporate Jamaica, the music fraternity, whether you're a big organization, a small organization, everyone is helping, neighbor, and I must applaud that. Definitely, neighbor, we must just continue to stick with the movement of the government. Just give the government time, neighbor. Be here with the government. And as I said earlier, neighbor, I think something big is coming, neighbor. Everyone won't be able. I don't think the government have the ability to give every single person down there in St. Elizabeth a house. But I think a plan is being formalized as we speak, neighbor. And I think a big announcement is coming. We just have to be confident and just believe in the government.
I'm feeling kind of lonely too if you don't